Good morning. This is your Mayor, Doug Medlin, welcoming you to our work session here in Surf City. And we've got a lot to cover today, so sit back and enjoy it. You can sit in your favorite chair at home anyway this way instead of having to sit in the hard chairs at the town hall. So we welcome you to this meeting. And at this time, I'm going to ask our Mayor Pro-Tem, Buddy Fowler, if he will lead us in our invocation.
Let us go to the Lord in prayer. We thank you for this day, Lord. We pray for the less fortunate, Father, and those that are sick, those who have lost loved ones. And we pray for our community and nation, God. Give them patience and understanding. We ask that you be with us today as we meet and make decisions for our town. Guide our minds. Help us make the best decision for our town, Father. We ask all these things in your most precious name, because through you all things are possible. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Fowler. And we'll ask Don if he'll deliver our pledge.
This is Don. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And we do have several guests with us today. In fact, we're going to have a lengthy meeting. We will do the town portion of it up until about 10 minutes to 12, and then we'll take a break and come back in at 12 with the planning board with us. So today we do have Monteith, our construction company, that's going to give us some great news, I hope, and I know they will, for the town hall. I also have people from the Honor Foundation that is asking for a request, and I don't know if Cody Leutgens is here or not, but we've got a request from him that we're going to look at as well. So people just hold on and we'll get started. And Ashley, after we do the approval of the agenda, and we do have 3 things that we need to add to the agenda, and that is the meeting calendar. We need to move the May meeting to 10 a.m. in the morning. Also, we have an update on the sand haul and on the fireworks as well. So that's 3 items that we need to add to the agenda. And now I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Don Helms. I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
This is Councilman Fowler. I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. We now go into our public comment period, and I guess Ashley, are you handling that, or Jason?
Probably Stephanie.
Stephanie, sorry.
Yes, we're about to start our public comment period. We've had the phone line open for recordings for a little over a week, and I will turn to Jason to play those recordings for us at this time.
Hi, my name is Susan Francisconi Edwards. My residence is at 204 South Shore Drive in Surf City, North Carolina, and I am a renter. I rent out my house fully through Treasure Real Estate, and I would like to see the rentals be opened up back to the public. And I have a couple of ideas that may help that to be a thing that can actually happen. I would love to see it happen by May 1st or sooner if possible. I think that if people are allowed to have passes, if somebody has a beachfront home or has beach access by way of their deed, they could be given a permit by the town that could be given to the rental companies, and they can print that and give it to people in multiple copies if they need to, so that if they're on the beach, they can take it with them, and so that they can be the only ones on the beach if they're connected with the town of Surf City through a rental person or a rental program or a home. The other thing that I think would be important is to have people take their temperatures before they enter a home. Anybody that goes into the home without taking a temperature prior to entry cannot be admitted, and they can do that right at the rental companies, or better yet would be to give them a test before they go into the homes, so that they would know if they were to get it prior to coming down to rent, maybe a week prior to coming in. Because when it comes time to pay my taxes in Pender County and Surf City and my water bills, I'm not going to be able to pay them unless they open up the rentals. And I think to close it all down up and down the beach all summer long is not the way to approach it. The other thing is to confine those people in the state that do have the virus. But I think that we have to be smart about it, and that would be the smartest thing to do. I also have an objection to this new development that's going in. I think 600 houses right when you're getting off of the beach, off the bridge, is just going to make congestion that you cannot believe on 210, and I do not like it. I don't know why they were able to pass that so secretively last time. I don't know. I've not been to a lot of meetings, but I am opposed to so many houses in there. Maybe the 200 first edition part of it, I don't think people should be able to use their land the way they want to, but a little too much is too much. Anyway, I thank you for listening. Bye.
Our next public comment will be Robert Serrata from 602 Greenhow Court.
Yes, my name is Robert Serrata. I live at 602 Greenhow Court. I welcome the opportunity and thank you for everything that the mayor and the council has done to date, and the opportunity to address my thoughts of possible changes to the restrictions surrounding the town's state of emergency. First and foremost, whatever the mayor and the council decide to do, I really hope there is a strategic process in place to educate, that is, communicate with the public, implement the change, and enforce the restrictions. Looking at what the town has implemented beyond the governor's state of emergency restrictions, I believe the town's state of emergency restrictions of closing public parking and town's beach access could be addressed at this time. I believe it is possible to open the public parking and the beach accesses. The challenge will be to control the amount of people that will flock to the beach. I think that if the public parking lots are open, there must not be any overflow parking onto the streets permitted, and the new restrictions would be set as such, similar to the restrictions of not allowing street parking enacted by Topsail Beach in their state of emergency. This will help limit those accessing the beach to a reasonable amount, as set by the size of the public parking lots. Modify the town's state of emergency, educate the public of the new restrictions and the effective date, place no parking signs on the streets, implement and enforce it. I also believe that the public accesses should be opened. However, I do not believe the porta potties or the bathrooms should be. That restriction similar to Georgia, and I believe that Sunset Beach did it also. And that is not to allow tents, canopies, chairs, umbrellas, coolers, etc. This will keep people from setting up for the day. State the reason for opening the beach access is to allow people to come and walk the beach, as that is what is listed as an essential activity. You can even restrict fishing as an option. By not allowing people to set up, this will encourage people to come and visit, but not to stay for too long. Again, have the beach patrol enforce these restrictions. I do not believe the boat ramps, I do believe that boat ramps could be opened with no restrictions other than encouraging social distancing, similar to New Hanover's recent change. I believe the parks and playgrounds should remain closed as it is difficult to enforce social distancing and regularly sanitize touch points. I also strongly oppose allowing short-term rentals to residents. I believe this is most important in keeping our community safe by limiting our exposure in the essential retail locations and doing our part to enforcing the governor's state of emergency limiting unnecessary travel. I thank you for the opportunity to address these issues, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Before we go forward, this is Dwight. What was the name of that gentleman?
Robert Serrata. All right. Our next public comment comes from Kathy Turner of 9039 West 9th Street.
Hello, my name is Kathy Brinkley Turner. I am calling on behalf of my mom, Carolyn, or Mrs. J.T. Brinkley. We have property at 9039 West 9th Street. I wanted to register a comment that there seems to be a lot of pitting neighbor against neighbor between full-time residents and part-time residents. This is very unfair in my belief, because there are more than one kind or one type of part-time resident. Part-time residents can be individuals who only come once or twice a summer or once or twice a year. My mom lives 45 minutes away in Wallace, North Carolina, and she and or her children are here almost every weekend and pretty much throughout the entire summer. We have been down here owning property on the canal since the early 70s. And I'm okay with all of the rules at this point in time, except for the fact that part-time residents of all kinds are being discriminated against. I think anybody who should be able to follow the rules should be allowed to come to their own property. I've been following the rules for 6 weeks now, well before there were any restrictions. I am a nurse, I am a professional, and I understand. I even follow the one-way signs at Food Line just a few minutes ago. However, there are locals who live here full-time who are going up and down the dunes. When I'm walking my dog, I see them. They are not the people we need to be looking at. It's the behaviors. And if you cannot behave and follow the rules, then appropriate measures must be taken. But to discriminate against property owners who have been living here about 60 to 75% of the year, every year since the early 70s, is very unfair. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Goodbye.
That was our final public comment. Turning it back over.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate the people taking time to call in with the comments. And I think that worked rather well. I think that was better than sending a text in. It got the actual voice of the people that were talking, so we understood what they were talking about. So at this time now, I will ask that Ashley take it over with the Monteith construction, and I'll let you handle that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have Mike Dole, who's with Monteith Construction, the contractor for the new town hall facility. He is on the line to give us an update and where we stand with that facility. Mike?
Yep, thanks, Ashley. Just a little bit about the project itself. We are looking at a 24,000 square foot wood framed structure for the new town hall and police department. Approximately 13,000 square feet of that structure would be the town hall side, and approximately 11,000 square feet would be the police department. It sits on 2.7 acres adjacent to the Publix. This will include on-site parking, a retainage structure, and then a rain garden as well. As far as schedule goes, Currently, we are in the process of pre-qualifying trade contractors who are interested in bidding on the project. We've got a really good response from the community, so it looks like we'll have good participation in that bidding process. We're looking to get our final bid documents from the architectural team and their consultants the week of May the 4th, which means that the plans will be available for bidders on the week of May the 11th. All that said, we are looking at a groundbreaking the latter part of June, and a completion date is early May of 2021. That's it on the project. Just a little bit about Monteith, if you don't mind. Monteith has been in business for 22 years. We currently have our headquarters is in Wilmington. We also have offices in Raleigh and Charleston. Currently, we have 122 employees, 85 of which are here in the Wilmington area, and we do roughly $192 million in volume per year, construction volume. So, and about 85% of that is in the public world, whether it be municipality buildings like this, or whether schools or hospitals in our community. So, what I had for an update.
Thank you, Mike. Go ahead, Ashley.
If council just has any questions, yeah, if council has any questions, feel free to ask.
Anybody got any questions of Mike?
This is Don Helms. When will you open? When are we going to? When will we know who's going to build the building? I know we're going to have a grand opening the June of 2020. Are you putting that out for bids, and when are we opening the bids?
Bid opening would be depending on when the final bid packages go out. So if we get them out the week of May the 11th, by middle of first or second week of June, we would have that information available. So it'll be a public bid opening for the trade contractors.
Okay.
Anybody else got a question? If not, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you for the work. And of course, now some of the bids have already gone out, right? We already have bids coming in on it. And he put the paper in the paper. There was a thing for bids, and I think some of our local people are bidding on it. Is that not right, Mike?
Yeah, it went out for pre-qualifications, and we do have local people that are responding with their qualifications. Based on state rules, we do have to pre-qualify to bid, and then we will send out the bid packages to those folks.
Okay, thank you. All right, if nothing else on the town hall update, we'll go to Ashley or to Chad. Who's handling the Honor Foundation rental request? Is Chad on there?
Actually, this is Stephanie.
Stephanie, sorry, go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah, we have a request from the Honor Foundation, and today we have Mr. Dave Polaris and Lindsay Cashin with us. They've got a presentation that they would like to go over with you guys yesterday. That PowerPoint was emailed out, and I'll let them present on behalf of the Honor Foundation, and then I'll go over what the request is.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is David Polaris, and I'm the Director of Programs for the Honor Foundation campus, serving Marine Forces Special Operations Command, known as MARSOC. I'm also a resident of Surf City. My colleague, Lindsay Cashin, and I would like to thank you for your time this morning and the opportunity to partner with Surf City in delivering our executive level transition program for Special Operations Forces at the Surf City Welcome Center. Since I last presented our program to this body in 2018, We have conducted 4 cohorts, transitioning over 70 fellows from active duty and into the corporate community. Many of our alumni and current fellows reside in Surf City and have found employment locally in companies such as Encino, National Speed, and an internship with Live Oak Bank. Each cohort meets twice a week for a 3-month period where our fellows participate in executive MBA level instruction with faculty members from across the country and from institutions like Keenan Flagler School of Business, UNC Chapel Hill, and Ohio State University. Through our program, we not only spotlight our fellows, but also Surf City to our corporate partners like Wilmington Chamber of Commerce, NC Ports, and PPD. Each evening prior to our class, we serve dinner, which we intend to source from our local vendors. The mission of the Honor Foundation is to serve others with honor for life so that their next mission is clear and continues to impact the world. Lindsay and I fulfill this mission both in the classroom and also outside the classroom by assisting our alumni in finding employment and purpose, building corporate partnership, and raising money so that we can continue to impact the world. Before turning over our remaining time to Lindsay, I would like to again thank the city leadership for your consideration in waiving the rental fee of the Welcome Center and your consideration in partnering with the Honor Foundation and serving our Special Operations Warriors. Thank you. Lindsay?
Thank you, David, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council for your time today. I, too, am a resident of Surf City, and I recognize the tremendous support our community provides to all of those serving the public. My role as Director of People is 3 parts. I provide executive coaching, alumni relations, but critical to our success is our employer engagement. As an HR professional, I recognize the incredible talent pool the special operations community provides, and my goal is to retain this talent pool right here in the greater Wilmington community. These brave men and women live in our community. Their children attend our schools, they support local businesses, and importantly, they love our great Surf City. Every session, I ensure professionals from all industries and size visit and engage with our program. From small business owners to the largest employers in Wilmington, engagement remains high. In addition to individual engagement, we host professional panel nights and HR events, which bring in over 20 professionals at a time from local organizations and around the country. We are fostering positive relationships and breaking down obstacles to ensure these elite veterans find fulfillment in their career transition. In every interaction, our program participants act with the highest level of professionalism, maturity, and intelligence. That is why individuals such as the CRO of Encino speaks at our graduation. That is why the CEO of NC Ports wants us to visit their organization. And that is why when we visit PPD, David Simmons and his entire C-suite spends over 2 hours with us. Together, we are positively impacting our communities. But providing the right space and environment to present our world-renowned curriculum is a vital factor for our success. And we feel the Welcome Center provides an environment conducive for positive learning and interaction, collaborative thinking, and support for all as together our program participants navigate their transition. We are hopeful that you and your colleagues will recognize this is a win-win for our local community. This partnership would present great support for local businesses and our schools and allow families to remain right here in Surf City. Thank you for your time and for your consideration, and please allow any remaining time to be pushed over to David for last-minute remarks.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I have no other remarks, but I welcome any questions you may have.
Okay.
This is Councilman Fowler.
Okay.
I have a question. Have y'all explored, were y'all not part of the Cape Fear Community Campus, Austin Burke here in Surf City with your programs? And are you planning on pulling out of there? Have you approached them about continuing your programs?
Yes, sir. Great question. We have been partnered with them since the inception of this campus in the summer of 2018. However, because of their growth and their scaling and the interest that the local community has had in participating in their programs, they're unable to accommodate us any longer, and that is why our partnership is ending with them.
Okay, I got one more follow-up question. In your program that y'all are doing, is it a fee-based program, or is it free to all the people that's participating, or is it funded through a grant?
It is, to all of our participants, it is no cost at all. So it is completely free to each one of our fellows. We are funded through the generosity of our funding partners. Two of our major funding partners are the Navy SEAL Foundation and the Marine Raider Foundation. We also get major grants from the Carrington Foundation and Wounded Warrior Fund, and then individuals and other organizations who give on a regular basis.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, this is Dwight, Dwight Torres. Dave and Lindsay, is that who's on the line?
Yes, sir.
From the foundation? Yes. Yeah, thank you for everything that you do as an organization for our military, first and foremost, and for your service, Dave. The question that I have are, why have you not, or maybe you have, explored the USO as a potential place? And the only reason I ask that is that I doubt that they would charge you anything at all, is my guess. And you know, that's probably one of the first USOs in the state. And because my concern, to be quite honest with you, is, you know, we're facing some economic challenges as a town as we speak. And I know that's less important than the work that you do for your people and the service members. But it's a slippery slope for us, in my opinion, if we did that for you. And I think that if I looked at the cost, it was over, we would forego over $7,000. And if we did it for you, we would probably need to be fair and do it for any other organization. I think it's been usual and customary for the town in the short time that I've been sitting on the board to provide an offset or dismissal of application fees and certain things like that. But that's been helpful to the organizations that come before us, you know, to them to limit some of those costs. But we've never done anything like this. And that's just my concern, just the cost that we would be looking at in the future and trying to be fair in this approach. Over.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Shugarts. Couple things real quick. Since our community is made up of such a large contingency of current and former military, I think that this is pretty admirable what this organization does, and the fact of taking people that have spent their life and their career in the military and then providing an opportunity for them to be able to get themselves transition from the military into the real world, and talking with them, anybody that's in the military, sometimes it's a very difficult process. And I think that our city, we don't really, I don't think we support anything like that. And I think supporting something like that is a great thing on our behalf. I think I echo with what Councilman Torres says in the fact of waiving fees. We're going through some economic times, but I also heard that they were going to, if I understand, provide, I'm looking at this would be 19 different meals, approximately 19 different meals that they would use our local vendors when Daddy Mac, Shaka Taco, anywhere served by these places get an opportunity to provide meals for them that boost our economy, which our economy is going to need a boost. I think is fantastic additionally. And I think also too, I think sometimes stepping out a little bit on the edge here doesn't hurt us. You know, they're not charging these people, so for us to be able to offer that to them is, I think, not only gracious, but I think every situation, every case is different. And I think I don't want to ever get into, well, we gave it to this person, so we have to give it to this person. I think every case is going to be completely different, and we have to look at everything as for what it's worth. So anyway, I like what they're doing. I think this is a great thing, and I would like to see us figure a way that we could help and assist them if at all possible. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, anybody else?
This is
I'm
Don.
not this is Dwight. I'm sorry, Don. This is Dwight again. I'm not at all opposed to what they're doing, just to be clear. I just think that if we can find an alternate venue, does it have to be the Welcome Center? Is there another room within the complex, the community center, that would be still viable for them to use and meet the mission that they're trying to achieve, but not come at an additional cost to the town? Over.
How many people do you have in the class each day?
Yes, sir. This is Dave Polaris. So right now our class is still growing to scale. Our current cohort is 23 fellows, 2 faculty, and then of course any visitors or instructors that we bring in. 2 staff members, Lindsay and I, and then any faculty or visitors we bring in. So you're looking around 30 individuals each evening. Now, that the one consideration, or one thing I would like for the council to take into consideration, is the West Coast battalions of MARSOC are moving to the East Coast. That is going to occur sometime within the next 12 to 18 months. So our cohorts are going to grow much larger. And I expect, regardless of that move of those 2 battalions moving from the West Coast to the East Coast, our cohorts are going to grow and probably level out right now at about 25 to 27 fellows per cohort. That's twice a year, fall and spring semesters.
So
I would also like to, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to mention one more thing about our location. When we built this campus, or when we stood up this campus, we actually surveyed the MARSOC community and asked them where they would like to have the campus, which would make it most convenient for them to attend in the evenings. And they brought back a resounding answer of Surf City. That is because the majority of the forces live in and around Surf City. And so that was, there was science to why we planted our campus here. Having them travel either to the USO in Jacksonville or even to Wilmington twice a week in the evenings is a little more inconvenient. However, if necessary, we will make those changes, but hopefully we'll be able to retain our campus here within city limits.
Hey, this is Dwight again. I'm all about having you guys here. It's a good thing, win-win all the way around. I'm just looking to see if maybe a military discount or just a different location, but within the town limits. I'm all in support for sure.
Yeah, because you're talking about doing this twice a year, right?
Yes, sir.
David,
Yes, sir. Much like a normal college class, it has a spring and a fall semester, and those are all outside of the vacation months. So we usually end up ending each cohort in the May-June timeframe, and then starting back in the late August-September timeframe. So it doesn't conflict with vacation, the 3 prominent vacation months.
I'm like the rest of them. I think what you're doing is great. I think we probably need to really take time and maybe get with Chad, see if there's some other locations we could do this, or in other words, I think we need to involve the recreational division in this instead of just the board handling it. What do you think?
Mayor, this is Councilman Fowler. If I could weigh in, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
David I think everybody's basically in support of the program and the job y'all are doing. Problem is tying up our facilities and the money that's going to be as Dwight mentioned, we're all in dire needs at this time coming up. But one alternative that could still stay here in Surf City and probably still do, if you say the Austin Burke campus is basically filled up and don't have room for you, we have a elementary school out here that I'm sure the school system will be glad to work with y'all in a setting there that will be conducive to your program as well. And I think if we all get together and work, we could probably find a place here in Surf City for y'all to conduct your campus. But right now, tying up our weapons center from basically August until the 1st of November, I think is pretty harsh for us to have to deal with all the other people that's going to be wanting to use that facility. But I am in favor of what y'all doing and how y'all are trying to incorporate people back into society with good jobs. But I think one of the options we need to look at and probably get together with our town manager and some of them and look at the possible options, except just the welcome center. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
Doug?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave and Lindsay, for your presentation. I think what you do and are doing, continue to do, is awesome. I know Mr. Fowler just mentioned the Surf City Schools, which I think is an awesome location as well. But one other location is the Topsavala Moose Lodge, which is right here, located right near Publix, would probably be an excellent location as well. And, looking at August and September, that is, I think, 13 of the dates were August and September, and those are our busiest months, usually, coming into out of the season as far as events that are happening. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilman Shugarts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, once again, I want to echo what everybody's saying. I think we're on the same page. We like the process. I want to keep reminding everyone here that a caveat, too, that I like is they do provide meals. Mr. Polaris, where do you currently, like you're out of Cape Fear, where do you currently buy those meals from right now? You have you have someone cater that? Where do they get that from currently?
Yes, sir. That's a Wilmington catering company that we use currently.
And so are you willing to make sure that you exclusively use Surf City restaurants for catering?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really think that's great for our local economy also, which we'll be able to pick some business up. So anyway, appreciate what you guys do, and I'm hoping we can make something work with y'all. I think this would be great for everybody all around. It helps not only our military as they're transitioning, but it helps our local businesses, which they're in dire need as much as our city is additionally. So thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think what they're doing, Dave and Lindsay, I think y'all doing a great job and appreciate what you do. And the military does need this badly. And I think we can work with you some way or another. And of course, now, I mean, this doesn't start till August. So, I mean, we've got another couple of weeks that we could look at this. And so I think what most people are saying is that we'd like to maybe get the town to look at what we could do to assist you on this, and just let you sit down and work with some of the town staff, and then if they have to, then they could bring it back to us. Is that in agreement with just get a consensus from the council?
This is Dwight. I say yes.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Yes. Yeah, it's a yes from me.
Okay. Jeremy?
That's a yes from me.
Okay. Don?
It's a yes from
Don
me,
Helms.
but I also, can I make a comment, Doug?
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement.
Go ahead.
I'm in agreement with what they're doing, and I appreciate David and Lindsay's efforts in putting this program on. I'm looking to keep it in Surf City, because I think that's where it needs to be, and it's going to help our economy if they'll use local vendors. And I think if they'll give us enough time, that if they don't have a deadline on this, if they'll give us enough time, then we can work with the school system. We can find something that will be what they are looking for and keep them here in Surf City. I definitely want to keep them here in Surf City. I think the big thing right now is what Dwight said, is the expense right now with, if we hadn't had this coronavirus, I don't think it would have been a big problem, but except for the months of August and September, and if they'll just give us time and don't jump the gun on us, I think we can accommodate this, and I'm all for it.
Okay, Buddy?
Yeah, we need to, I'm consensus with it. I'm fine with it. We just try to find and work it out, but we can't make a motion to do anything right now.
Okay, Teresa?
I'm fine with us talking about it later.
Okay. Who did I miss? Okay. I'd like to ask Stephanie, can you just set up something to where maybe get with Chad or some of them and discuss and see what we can come up with? Stephanie, did you hear me? Oh, she did. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can relay that to her, Mayor.
Okay.
I apologize. Sorry, my phone dropped the call. I keep dropping the call in this building. I think I'm gonna have to go outside. Yes, I can arrange a meeting between the Honor Foundation and the Parks and Rec Committee on our side, staff-wise, and see what we can arrange to find an accommodating space for them.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And once again, I appreciate David and Lindsay and all that they're doing, and look forward to working with them. Anything else on this subject?
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this is Don. Can you ask David or Lindsay, do you have a deadline?
No, sir. Our deadline for a decision internal to our organization was the end of June, to have a direction to go towards. However, from what I'm hearing today, the commitment of the city to work with us to find a solution, I believe we can extend that deadline a little bit farther, just for the comfort factor of being able to know where we're going to land in this. So I think extending it into the July timeframe wouldn't be a problem, and I can take that back to my leadership as well.
Yeah, I think that we can. All right, I think we can come up with something in June probably. All righty. Anybody else got anything on it? Okay, if not, who wants to present the Ocean Fest?
I'll move forward that. This is Stephanie. We've had a request for Mr. Cody Leutgens with Ocean Fest for an amendment to section 1211, which is the alcoholic beverage possession and consumption. Mr. Leutgens has stated in lieu of the growth and success of last year's Ocean Fest, they've received great feedback on the grounds and the functionality of the event. As he's discussed previously with council, the footprint of this event was forced to be expanded due to the spread of the patrons and allow for more vendors and ultimately generate more revenue that can be donated to the charities that they support. The last component that he's asked and needs to be solidified is the consumption of alcohol and where and when this can take place.
Ideally, as long as patrons are inside the perimeter of the footprint, they would be allowed to consume alcohol. He says, ensure allowing Ocean Fest visitors to walk and sip creates a much more conducive event, as well as increases the funding that they can receive from sponsors. He has asked for Section 1211B to be amended to accommodate not only Ocean Fest, but any future events that may be with the town or outside organizations. He's saying that as Surf City is growing more and more popular with the diverse age group, he believes it is time for a bigger picture on the ordinances and ask for an adjustment. So I'll leave that open for conversation for council and the attorney.
Yeah, I look forward to the Ocean Fest, but I think we'd like to have some response from our council, Attorney Brian, and then also from our chief of police as well. Thank you. So, Brian, if you want to do it first.
Thank you, Mayor Brian Eads, town attorney. I don't see any legal implications of this amendment. Staff and I did discuss it some, but I think the bigger question would be from enforcement perspective. And so I'll, unless the council has any questions of me, I'll turn it over to Chief Shanahan.
Thanks, sir. Chief?
Good morning, Council, Mayor. Yeah, so, logistically, looking at this footprint, the agreement was, initially, I guess, that alcohol consumption would be allowed within those parameters. But, obviously, the challenge logistically is the control of consumption within the large parameters. I thought we were in agreement on essentially scaling it down to be able to consume alcohol consumption in the parking lot of the Welcome Center this year, and essentially looking at it in years to come, if it continues, to possibly expanding that out into the streets and so forth. When you have so many ingress areas for people to come and go, it's going to be challenging for my staff and I to control that alcohol consumption coming in from other areas and people going out beyond the parameters of that.
Okay. Question, are they going to have a beer tent, like they used to have in the park? Is that the way the alcohol beverage is going to be served? Is that where they get it from, or? Go ahead.
If you would prefer, I can conference Cody in. He was going to be on hold in case we had questions or concerns regarding Ocean Fest. Would you like for me to conference Cody in?
I think that would be a good thing to find, because I'm not sure where they're going to get the beer from.
Give me just 1 second.
Okay. If anybody else has got anything to add while we're waiting on Cody to come on, you're welcome to go ahead and add it.
Mayor, this is Councilman Fowler. I'd like to add some things. I'm not for approving this amendment as he's wanting to do on our ordinance. And talking with Chief of Police and also in past things as well, I think we need to confine the alcohol consumption to a certain area. I have a problem with our police department or any other enforcement being able to take the whole total footprint and be able to control the alcohol when people getting out and coming and going. I think it would be more conducive to have it at the Welcome Center, and who vendors they have, whether they have a one beer tent or whether they have 2 or 3 vendors selling beer at that area, will be fine. I have no problem with that, but I do think it needs to be confined to a certain area. With that, Ocean Fest, and it serves a great opportunity, serves the public, and they do great things with their charitable societies. But I'm not for making a change to our ordinance to allow consumption on the streets, because that opens up a whole can of worms. Thank you.
This is Stephanie. I apologize. Mr. Leutgens was not available at the moment, but my understanding is their original proposal showed a beer garden on the Welcome Center property, and that was the site plan that was approved. However, they were
questioning whether we would amend the ordinance to allow you to purchase the beer at the beer garden and then be able to walk in the footprint of the event with the open container of alcohol.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is
Go
Don.
ahead.
I'm in agreement with Buddy. I think it would be a nightmare for the police department and what other people that come down to control this. I think it would be a nightmare if they want to have the beer garden on where they're going to have it, the beer garden at the Welcome Center. I'm not for changing our ordinance and just allowing people, as long as they're in the footprint, because that's a big footprint for Ron and all his folks to control. At this time, I'm not in favor of changing that.
Okay. Any other council have an opinion?
This is Dwight. So what's highlighted there in yellow, is that the actual ordinance today, as of today, or is that what's being up for consideration?
That is our ordinance as it currently reads.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know what the new ordinance would be. That would be helpful, one. So two, I would err on the side of caution with the chief of police. I mean, he's got the expertise, and if he feels that it would be challenging for him and his police officers to try to contain this, and then I would err on the side of the police chief to ensure the safety of the folks and just contain them to their beer garden space. Over.
Mayor, this is Councilman Fowler, if I may.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to make a
Go right
motion.
ahead.
I would like to make the motion that we stick to the event as it was presented to the Recreation Department and approved, with the beer garden being in the Welcome Center.
This is Don
Okay.
Helms.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Don.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Do I have any discussion? If no discussion, do I hear say aye for anybody that approves? Everyone approves, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same for opposed? Did I hear aye opposing? If not, then it's carried unanimously and is approved, is not approved. Okay, we're going to leave it just like it is and not expand it. The not covering the whole 3-block section. So as it was stated, I guess it'll just be on the property that is considered the Welcome Center and the parking lot. Is that right?
Correct. That was the approved site plan.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Now we're to our state of emergency, and I'd like to present what I'd like to look at and see what y'all think about it. I know this has been what has really put a lot of pressure on me, a lot of pressure on the whole board, and has put a lot of pressure on all the citizens in Surf City. But anyway, we made the decision to close beach accesses, parking, and parks to bring an abrupt halt to the amount of people gathering in our town and on our beach during a rapid increase of the pandemic. that we did not get the rapid increase. I think our decision, along with a lot of decisions in the whole state, has helped with this pandemic. Our decision did exactly what we intended, and after it's been a few weeks of closure, we now feel that we can examine and discuss how to reverse some of the decisions back into normal activity safely. This is a job that we're going to try to do. It'll be a slow process, but it's going to depend on the people in the town. So everybody will help make this possible, and it will be through your actions and the actions that you impose on other people that you know and see. Excuse me. I would like to propose we open the public beach accesses first, leaving parking closed for now. And it would not be all the accesses, but some on either end, north and south end. I would hope to implement and resume normal activity in the town in increments and stages based on how lenient the government's orders become and based off the information on the spread or the resolution of the virus, which I would love to see fast, but I'm not sure of that. First and foremost, our job is to keep our citizens safe. If for any reason we see that reopening is doing more harm than good, and if people aren't following the orders of 10 or less, no more than 10 in a group, then we will need to close it again. So if we see big congregations of people, then we can close the beach accesses right back up again. As I have stated from the very beginning, we need our citizens' help in making this work and getting through this quickest way possible. Our goal at this current time for the next couple of weeks is to remain closed to recreational travelers, but hope to allow our beach to become a great source of exercise and fresh air for our citizens. I would like to look at opening the beaches, accesses, and the boat ramp. So the beach accesses, like I say, we would like to look at, work with the police department in opening accesses on the north and south end to give our people access to the beach, and while the parks and parking will remain closed. So therefore, I don't feel like we really need to open some of the large accesses that have all the parking. Do some way or another, they'll get into that parking. So we'll leave the main accesses closed. We will continue to access and have a goal to reopen those areas, maybe by May the 15th, not for sure, depending on the facts surrounding health risks between now and then. Based on a consensus from the council here today, we will need to contact the wildlife, though, for reopening the boat ramp. So we'll turn that over to Ashley, I guess, to contact wildlife, or Stephanie, to contact wildlife about opening the boat ramp back up. I also propose that we extend the suspension of short-term rentals until Governor Cooper lifts the travel ban, with the plan of reassessing the short-term rentals at that time. I have communicated this with neighboring beach towns, sought legal advice, and partnered with some of the local rental agencies, making this decision as well as using state and federal advice. We do work with our people in our local government people, as well as our county, our state, and our federal representatives in making all these decisions. So it's not just us making the decisions. I hope to see our businesses open, even if it's maybe a 20% capacity soon. But we have less control over that decision and are waiting on the governor's decision for that. In the meantime, please visit our local businesses online, support them with local pickup and delivery options. I know most corporate retailers are delaying shipments. I just had some delayed today. And so right now, in other words, please consider looking local for your needs first. I am posting an updated list of shops to help support those who are open or partially open. I've already done so with the rest of them. Overall, our goal is to strategically reopen our town in small stages to ensure safety remains. our top priority and to see our town have a thriving, beautiful summer season. In the end, my hope is to see this make us stronger and to bring us a better summer than we had even planned. But once again, like I say, this depends on cooperation of all our citizens. So at this time, I would like to open it up for discussion on some of these items and see what the council thinks. Got any comments?
It's Councilman Fowler.
Yes, sir.
I'm in agreement with what you proposed, opening the boat ramp up, but not allowing parking so they can put the boats in and out. And I open up some of our beach accesses so our people can certainly get out on the beach and exercise. It'll be good for them, and plus keeping the parking closed at our beach accesses. Good exercise. They can walk there, walk across the beach. And the short-term rentals, I've got some emails that I'm sure the rest of the council people have as well on the both sides. We're keeping them closed and trying to open them up as soon as possible. Of course, I know that the council, we're all concerned with the safety of our community and people in our community. And that's what we've always tried to put first. I think we've done a good job of that. But with that in mind, going back to when the state lists their stay-in-place order, I'm in agreement with your proposal on this, and you have my consensus to move forward in that direction. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, this is Don Helms. My question in your comment was, I'm in agreement with you as far as opening. Are you talking one or two beach accesses on either end, on the far end? And also the big thing is, if we open the boat ramp up, are you going to let them park there in the designated part of the park that's designated for boat parking? Am I correct?
Correct. That would be the only parking being open. The rest of the parking would be closed, still be taped off. And it would be patrolled. So if people park in the other parking, yeah, go ahead.
I'm in agreement if you want to open up two beach accesses or one beach access or two beach accesses on the south and north end. I don't see anything wrong with opening the boat ramp at this time and using just the parking that is designated for boats. But again, it's like you said, everybody's got to realize that if we open this boat ramp up, they cannot be congregating in groups over at the boat ramp. The main purpose for opening this up is to let people get out on the waterway and have some recreation, but they're going to have to keep their distance, the 6-foot distance, and no more than 10 people or 5 people in any one group. Like you said, it's going to be up to the cooperation of the citizens. And if we see they don't do it, then we're going to have to close them up again. I'm in agreement with
You're right.
Okay. Go along. But we're going to have an influx of out-of-town people, day trippers, and we're not going to be able to allow them to park on the streets.
Correct. There'll not be any parking, public parking anywhere open on the beach. And all the restrictions that the government has enforced as far as the grouping of 10 and the social distancing, all of that is still in effect, and it will all have to be on the beach as well. So if people are congregated, more than 10 people in an area and not social distancing, then they are liable to be ticketed for that.
Okay,
Okay.
I think I'm in agreement with it, but I'm in agreement with what you said, that people are going to have to be notified that the restrictions still are in effect. So I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. All right.
Doug,
Anybody else?
Doug, this is
Yeah.
Doug, this is Jeremy, Councilman Shugarts.
Okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay, first things, I think this is good. I think everything that you're saying is spot on. I would like to know, do you have any ideas on what access numbers on the north and south? Do you have any idea which those are going to be currently? Or are you guys going to chat with the powers that be to determine that?
I think we'll leave that up to probably between the police department and Parks and Rec, to which one would be best to open up so that it would give the citizens on the back side, sort of spread it out. I mean, they can't come straight out of their house and go to the beach. They may have to go down the road a little ways, to get to an access that is open. But at least they will have some access.
Yeah, and I think that people are already walking anyway and already riding their bikes anyway, so this is going to be an issue. Now, they're going to be able to park their bikes at that access. Will that be a problem?
I don't see where, I doubt they're going to be towing bikes.
Okay, I just want to make,
sure.
I thought
about that. I thought about that the other day. I said that would be a weird record. It would be towing the bikes off.
It would be, no doubt, for sure.
Yeah.
And my last question,
we got the last.
Yeah, for sure. Now, last question is, I don't do disc golf, but is it already open? Are you thinking about opening that? What is your thoughts on that process?
That is up to you all. Now, I talked with council about it. What was it you said about it, Brian? Do you have a comment on disc golf?
Well, I think we need to move in increments and just see what type of compliance we're getting. I don't know how popular disc golf is in Surf City, but I think the beach accesses probably have a much broader appeal than more people go to the beach than play disc golf. So my thought is, let's start with the beach access and see if that overwhelms the PD, if we have any enforcement issues. And then if everyone complies, then we go to the next step. Because as you mentioned earlier, if we get non-compliance and enforcement becomes an issue, then we're going to have to go backwards instead of forwards. So I think baby steps, so to speak.
All right, so let me
ask. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Doug. Okay, so my question was,
go ahead.
If we go in steps, Brian, I know that Wilmington opened their first, they did pretty much this sort of similar thing that we're doing currently. And if we go in steps, I don't want to wait till our next meeting in 3 weeks to do a step on the Frisbee golf course. So Mr. Mayor, is it a week? You want to see how things go after a week on that process? What is your thought process on that?
Mayor, may I say something along those lines?
Yeah. Go ahead.
And that's a very good point, but I just want to remind the council and Mr. Shugarts, that's a very good point. The mayor has the power to modify the declaration of state of emergency, provided we do not violate open meeting law. The mayor can individually poll the board, or I can individually poll the board, or Kyle or Stephanie, and if there is a consensus to modify this 2 days from now, it could be reissued 2 days from now. So we do not have to wait to a scheduled meeting or call a special or emergency meeting to modify the state of emergency. It's good to get the entire council's input on it, but technically the mayor could do it unilaterally. So to that point, we can take these baby steps much quicker than once a month. Over.
Okay. All
Doug,
right, probably need to bring, yes, go right ahead.
this is Teresa. I just want to add one thing to the disc golf. You know, I go by there several times a day. I don't play myself, but been out there a couple times. And very randomly, is there ever more than 10 people there? There might be, 4, 5, 6, that you see there in the afternoon. They all have their own Frisbee. They're not, touching other, objects. So I would like to see it open myself.
Okay. I think as far as looking after this stuff, of course, a lot of the responsibility is going to be with the police department. So what do you say, Chief?
Yeah,
Chief
I'm
Shanahan?
certainly, obviously, if the council has agreed upon that, we don't have any issues. I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
And Mayor, this is Dwight.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Just
Dwight.
been sitting back, taking it all in. I know we had a conversation a couple nights ago, and can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we had a conversation a couple nights ago, and I did what you asked me to do. I know there was some concern over the constitutionality of restricting high-risk states once we got to the point where we thought it would be appropriate to open up the short-term rentals, and you'd asked me to explain that to the board. So this is my effort at that. I did call Hilton Head, which was the example that was used based on the fact that they had a similar a state of emergency declaration as ours. Up until April 3rd, when the governor, I guess he updated the governor's order, and it explicitly addressed the short-term rental properties, and he said that the only ones that would be, I guess, restricted, if you want to use a term, would be those from high-risk states as identified by the CDC. When I called Hilton Head, I asked to speak to the town manager. He was unavailable. He was on a conference call, but I spoke to the assistant, would be his assistant, the assistant town manager, which was Josh Gruber. And I told him that we were facing some similar, issues as we start to begin open, because, as you know, the governor stated, our governor, Cooper, stated just the other day, we can't remain closed forever. And we needed to start to look at when and how to ease restrictions. And this is obviously the discussion we're having. But when I addressed that with the assistant town manager, he said to me that once the South Carolina governor updated their order, it basically relieved them of that. And I said, well, did you guys ever consider the constitutionality of it? And his response was quite telling to me. He said, well, it's been a part of the South Carolina statute. It's referenced in the governor's order. You can't imagine that would be unconstitutional if it's been a standing statute all this time, and he's just using it in this executive order. So I was wanting, with that said, to think about it for us and doing the same thing. We put that restriction upon ourselves. We didn't wait on the governor to act to do that, because the governor said, host or municipalities have their own unique concerns, and we took it upon ourselves. So I'm not sure we should wait. Maybe that's the approach, but we should definitely start planning on going in that direction. Yesterday, I had a Zoom meeting with most of the realtors. I think you dialed in, and we had some really good informative discussion, and they really appreciate everything we've done, all the the difficulties that we've had to deal with in all these decisions, and they've been supportive, and they said they will continue to support any decision we make, and I was very appreciative of that. But I just would ask our attorney if there's, I don't know if, and I'm not a legal expert, don't claim to be, or a constitutional scholar, but is there, I guess, case law that you can refer to, or has precedent been established with the example of South Carolina statute? That's just a question, and then I've got some more, but I'll pause there.
Okay. After I yeah, I talked with you about this, and I did tell you to go ahead and research it. We discussed it on our Freetown meeting. We meet once a week with all three towns, Topsail Beach, North Topsail, and Surf City, and that was brought up at that time, and Brian informed us of this. So I'll turn this over to Brian, let him inform us of what he knows about it, and then we can look at the decision from that. Mr. Eads?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Brian Eads, Town Attorney. And I want to be careful here because if I cross the line and to give legal advice, the appropriate setting to do that would be to amend the agenda, unanimously agree to add a closed session, and then us discuss legal advice in closed session. But I will just tell you as a initial matter to answer Councilmember Torres's question, the seminal case on the right to travel, I mean, the cases go back in the United States Supreme Court to the 1940s. The one that I think bears probably most on point for these matters is Saenz, S-A-E-N-Z versus Roe, and that is a 1999 United States Supreme Court case. I'm just going to quote from it real quick because I believe people attacking or suing over the Hilton Head type orders are going to use this case as the tip of the spear. But here's a quote from that case. The Constitution guarantees travelers the right to be treated as a welcome visitor rather than an unfriendly alien when temporarily present in another state. This protection is afforded by the Privileges and Immunity Clause of Article 4. Quote, the right of newly arrived citizen to the same privileges and immunities enjoyed by other citizens of the same state. And I could go on and on. Privileges and immunities is not an absolute right. However, the right to travel is protected by the federal Constitution. And I wasn't a party to the conversation with the whoever you spoke with down at Hilton Head, but I will tell you, it doesn't matter how long a state statute's been on the books. Until it is applied in an unconstitutional manner, it's not been tested. And I suspect Hilton Head has never had historically a ban, a complete travel ban that indexes particular states. I've read that order, and the part of the order that you're referring to reads as follows. This is from the South Carolina order. State of North Carolina are prohibited from making or accepting new reservations or bookings from or for individuals residing in or traveling from any country, state, municipality, or other geographic area subject to or identified in a CDC travel advisory or other CDC notice as a location with extensive community transmission of COVID-19, to include the tri-state area consisting of the states of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So that last part of that specifically identifies states. I don't want to opine at this point as to what a court will do if that's tested. I think courts historically have given great deference to elected officials during times of emergency. However, the federal Constitution would prevail over any state statute. So I don't think that if the only I can't imagine the only analysis that was done down there was, well, it's never been found this statute's never been found unconstitutional before. So I think that misses the question. And I'll be happy to get into it in more detail in a closed session. But the CDC notice that they reference isn't even mandatory. I have that in front of me as well. It's due to extensive community transmission, CDC urges residents of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut to refrain from non-essential travel. So even that travel advisory is not a ban. It's advisory. It's a tricky question, Councilman Torres. And we are writing our own playbook here. But if we start allowing people from some states in and not others, I think we're going down a road that will certainly lead to a legal contest.
Okay, sir, thank you for that answer. I would like to further, take this conversation into closed session at some point, so we could discuss it further. And to finish up on, and thank you, sir. To finish up on my, my response, Doug, to your request or where you're leaning to go with this, I'm in agreement with opening the beach access. To be honest, I would prefer all of them. I mean, we shut them all down at once. I don't know why we wouldn't lift them all, but if we were going to limit them, then maybe think about reducing it to 50% every other access. That way people aren't traveling half a mile in one way or the other, especially since you're not even considering the opening of the parking spaces. If you do go to 50% or whatever number that may be, it's ultimately your decision. I would consider to have the respective parking spaces open along with them. And the only reason I say that is because we're going to go right back into us against them and the islanders and mainlanders, and they can't walk to the beach access. They need to drive to it. And I'm just really, I don't want to go there. It's been tiring, to be quite honest, but just consider that. And the accompanying restroom. I mean, some of the folks that come down here, yes, it's intended to be short-term, not long in nature. You don't want them camping out and having, your regular 4th of July day on the beach. But some folks are a little bit older, and my bladder doesn't hold as well as it used to. So I would consider the restroom to go along with the access as well. The intent here is to get people moving, to give them a little bit of sense of normal as much as we can, and getting people outside now that. I listened to some of the governor's statements again this morning in preparation for this meeting, and it's a matter of mental health. There's been an increase of suicide calls to the hotline of over 300%. We've got to do something to get people, energized and out and about, and that goes to the disc golf. I'm in full agreement of opening up that little thing. It's just a handful of people. They're all, we know most of them. I do especially, and that would be something good to offer them. The governor's executive order considers disc golf as, not disc golf, but golfing in general, as I understand it, as an essential thing. Am I misunderstanding that? Isn't that golf in general listed as an essential and not closing down the golf courses?
It's specifically identified as allowable. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And may I make one comment?
So, yes, sir.
May I make one suggestion? I would strongly encourage us to seek advice from Pender County Health and Onslow County Health, depending on where the access is, as to opening bathrooms. That is a confined space. We all know that it can live on hard surfaces. I think CDC says for at least 48 hours. And that's a whole nother level. And I would encourage us to seek input from the respective county health departments and get their advice on opening public bathrooms.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because that's one thing that we're missing in this whole approach. I think we've been kind of, dependent, if you want to use a word, on the state medical, when they bring the state health director up on the podium and to give us some guidance, and the same thing at the federal level. But we don't have that in our city as I understand it. But luckily enough, last night I had a lengthy conversation or discussion with our very own Dr. Seaborn Blair. Most of you know he is a 4th-generation family physician and leads Island Family Medical Care Team in Surf City. I discussed our need to have a physician's input with an eye and focus on local medical concerns, especially during times like this, a pandemic. He believes an argument can be made on both sides, whether to open it up or keep it closed. And he follows it closely. And I was very happy that in our conversation, he is willing and eager to help us in any way he can for providing some type of input. He stated his practice has the ability to do tests and have been testing for some time, and they have curbside service and have taken additional precautions to ensure patients are not cross-contaminating each other while receiving medical care at his facility. tests are sent out. To a lab, and he says that they're getting the results within 3 days. So that was all great to hear. In addition, as you know, I sent some of you, I think the town manager and the mayor and most of the council members, emails that I received from my query to the New Hanover, Onslow, and Camp Lejeune hospitals. I spoke with the communications director and public relations officers. They're different titles in different hospitals, but nonetheless, the response that I got was that our surrounding medical facilities are capable. They have the bed space, they have the respirators that have been needed, and they're ready to go, and they have the PPE to go with it. So as we continue to think about what restrictions to lift, just know that our medical facilities are ready to respond should we have to go there. I hope that as we start to lift some of these restrictions that we are obviously based on this conversation, thinking about it and doing it in an incremental and methodical way. But I just wanted everyone to take those thoughts into consideration as we start making some decisions here. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, it's Jeremy.
Go right ahead.
Would you consider, please, and I don't know if the council, how they feel, like they could get the disc golf open additionally with the accesses, please?
Yes. Yes, that will be in it. Now, what I said was not the legal form. The council and council will put it in legal form, and then I will sign it after council puts it in legal form. But it basically what I said is what will go in the legal description, and that does include the disc golf.
Okay, Roger that. Thanks.
Yes, sir. And as far as openings on the beach, that will the ones that will be open, I think still we need to leave it up to police department and Parks and Rec as to which ones we open up. And I'm still not sure. I know Torres something about opening bathrooms, but I'm not sure whether we're ready to take that on or not. Because, the thing about bathrooms, if somebody goes in there and that has it, and then somebody goes in right behind them, it'd be very easy for them to get it because there's no way that you could clean them between people. So that's something.
Mr. Mayor, I agree. Mr. Mayor, I agree with you. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with you. I will not allow someone to use our restroom in our businesses for that same reason. So I think that's a moot point at this point. I also would like to make sure, I know you want to leave it up to Parks and Rec, and you'd like to leave it up to the police department, but I'd like you to make sure you have your input since you understand the accesses too. want to make sure you have that input with them also additionally.
Will do. Yes, I'll work with them, and I appreciate that. Okay, do we have some other discussion on that?
Mayor, Mr. Mayor, this is Don.
Yes, sir.
My question is, if we're going to open these accesses up, part of them,
right?
We need to open parking up also because the people like from the mainland that go to the beach that want to walk the beach, where are they going to park? I mean, if we don't provide parking, then we don't want them parking on our road. So whatever accesses we open, we need to open that parking up because there's a lot of mainland people that go over there and they have nowhere to park. So we need to, and I'm in agreement with opening up disc golf. And I agree with you on the bathrooms. We shouldn't open them up, but we need to think about whatever accesses we open. We need to open the parking because everybody's not going to be local. I mean, they're going to be local, but they're going to be mainland versus island.
Yeah, it's gonna be a slippery slope. Because if we open up all the parking, then naturally what it's gonna do, it's gonna bring all the people to the beach. Not from our local area, but from faraway areas as well. So I don't know. We're trying to start off on small increments and see how that goes, and then progress from that. Other comments?
Mr. Mayor, this is Don again.
Wow.
I don't think we need to open any other parking but except the ones that are dead right at the access that we're going to open.
Okay. All right.
Well, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead,
Brian Eads, town attorney, and I can wait. I just had a couple items that I'd like to.
No, you go right ahead.
Address to the council. I agree that we all want to open up as fully and as quickly as we can. However, we have to understand that we have a finite law enforcement resource. And I think just as people had to get used to the restrictions that are presently in place, we will have to calibrate lifting these restrictions. Reiterate that we don't have to wait weeks. If we open up the accesses and are getting compliance in a couple of days, depending on how it's going and depending on the feedback we get from the chief, we can start opening up parking spaces. But unless you have a means of policing the parking spaces, you are going to get groups more than 10 going over accesses. I don't know what the answer is. I do know that if we do it incrementally, in my personal opinion, I believe we will be better equipped to manage it. And Chief Shanahan, feel free to weigh in if you agree or disagree. Secondly, we would need to know before the order is signed which accesses are going to be opened. And then we would also need to know when that's going to take effect. And I would certainly want Chief Shanahan's input on when the order takes effect. That's all I have at this moment. Thank you.
Correct.
Mayor, this is Councilman Fowler. I believe that the south end and the north end of our island, their beach accesses are open, but they have still got parking closed off. If we open our accesses and keep our parking closed, that'll put us island-wide on the same page. And I think that's probably a good move to do. I know that some of these people that's coming in are going to want to park, but they'll have to figure out that battle and how to do it and how to stay safe distance until the governor releases his stay-in-place order. But and as far as the bathrooms, I am not in favor of opening the bathrooms.
Okay.
I will tell you, if I may, Mayor, just experience from another town, Oak Island in Brunswick County was experiencing people dropping people off at the access points and then coming back later and picking people up. It is not the most convenient thing, I give you that, but at least people will be able to have access to the beach, and that's a step towards opening up, heading back to normalcy. But what we don't want is to do something too quickly and then have to clamp it back down again, because that we don't want to have to go back and forth, lift, close. And if people will be responsible and obey the other restrictions, then we can continue to progressively open up. That's my personal opinion on that. Thank you.
I agree with you, and like you say, it'll be easier to give them increments as we go along. And we don't have to have a town meeting to open up or release or, decrease some of the restrictions that we've got on. We can do that without a town meeting. I can just call and get a consensus on it. But I'm afraid of opening everything up at one time. I'm afraid it'll just, we'll be back to where we were before, with big groups on the beach and all that stuff. So let's try this. If looks like we need to do a little more opening up, and we will work with the police department and go along with what they have to say.
Mr. Mayor, this is Don.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
this is Don. I would like to rescind my comment. I would like to rescind my comment about opening the parking up because I'm in agreement with our attorney and with you. Let's do it in small steps, even though it's like you said, they can come and drop people off and then come back and pick them up. We need to.
Right.
Okay. I'm in agreement with 100%.
All right. Any more discussion on this? Okay, if there's no more discussion on state of emergency, then we'll go to the North Carolina DOT speed limit reduction. And I think, Stephanie, you have the information on that, right?
Yes, we were contacted by the Department of North Carolina Department of Transportation. It's Jesse Leonard, the engineer for our district. They have had a citizen's request for lowering the speed limit from 35 to 25 on Driftwood Drive over in Gage Point and Tropical Wind. They had forwarded that on to us because a portion of that road is within our municipality for a resolution of acceptance for the lowering of the speed limit. Inside the packet today, you did sign the resolution.
And in other words, they came up with agreeing that the 25 mile an hour was the speed that it needed to be. And the problem is one side of the road is in Surf City, the other side of the road is in the county. And our portion, I'm not sure all of it, but a portion of one side of the road is in the city and the rest of it's in the county. So it'd be hard to reduce. They want to reduce the county part to 25 miles per hour, but we would have to agree to reduce the city part to 25 miles per hour. So you would have two different speed limits on that same street if we don't agree to it, right?
Correct, and the speed study did warrant the 25 mile per hour as requested, and that is correct. If the city voted not to move forward with the lowering to 25, then a portion of Driftwood would remain at 35, and the portion that's within the county limits would then go to 25.
Correct.
So for consistency, they were asking the council to move forward with approving the 25 mile per hour zone, that portion that is within our ETJ and corporate limits.
Hey, Mayor.
Okay, do I have any? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mayor, this is Dwight. As you know, I lived for 14 years on a corner of Driftwood, which is the street in question, and Popple Street, which is on the other side of the road. I don't know over those 14 years how many times I had to jump out in front of vehicles, literally, to get people to slow down. There was nothing back there years ago, and it was used like a racetrack, and it just it's way overdue for that thing to go to 25 miles per hour because there are more and more children back there now than there were when my kids were little. So I would make a motion to approve that.
Okay, do I have a second on it?
I'll second.
This is Helms. I'll second it.
Okay. All right, well, Teresa seconded it. So do we have any more discussion on it? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. No opposed, so has been passed to drop the speed limit or request the speed limit be dropped on Driftwood to 25 miles per hour. Okey-doke. All right, delinquent taxes. I guess that's Miss Ashley.
Yes, sir. Today, we would like to ask council for a consensus to move forward with publishing and mailing out our delinquent tax notices as of May 1st. Typically, we send these notices out in April. However, due to COVID-19, we have postponed that, and we would like to do that in May. By statute, we're required to send those out by June 30th. So there has not been any updates that we're aware of to the statute that would give us the authority to grant an extension for that. So we would like to go ahead and move forward with posting that in the Pender Post and mailing those notices out. Just to give you some numbers, currently we have 515 accounts in dollars. That equates to $296,000 approximately, with 12,000 of that being in penalties. So I think due to our situation with COVID-19 and the uncertainty of us receiving our revenues, it's extremely important that we collect as much of our tax revenue as we possibly can. So the request is a consensus from council to move forward with mailing and publishing those notices.
Do I have a consensus on that?
I just have a question real quick. Go ahead, Don.
Fowler, yes.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Shoot. Sorry about that. Teresa?
Yes, sir. If that's the protocol to take, then yes, follow protocol.
Okay. Dwight?
Yeah, I just had a question real quick, though, before I give you that. There were 2 dates, right? There was something that you normally do in April and you're pushing it to May. Is that right?
Yes. Normally
Correct.
we send normally we send these notices out in April. However, we have pushed that back and we're asking to mail those out May 1st. By statute,
Right.
we have to have this information out by June 30th.
Okay, so the second date, the mail out, but then the public notice. Wasn't there a public notice and a date associated with that?
Yes, the public notice and the mail out would all happen at the same time.
Okay, all right, so yes, good to go. Thank you. I'm a yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Don's already said. Buddy?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Your consent? Okay. Jeremy?
Yes, sir, I'm good with it.
Okay. Did I get everybody? I think so. Okay. All right. You got consensus there, Miss Ashley. So proceed with that. All right. Next is we will go to you again with budget discussion. Miss Ashley.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm not exactly sure what Kyle's intent was with this item on the agenda, but I can just give you an update as to where we are with our budget process. Last week, Kyle and myself met via conference with all the department heads and went through their budget requests. We're currently putting together our capital improvement plan. As a part of the department's budget request, they had to also give us their request for any capital projects above $50,000 that they foresee moving forward with in the next 5 years. So I'm gathering that information now, putting it together in a formal plan, and then that information will be passed along to you all. Based on our normal budget calendar, we are scheduled to have the manager's recommended budget presented to council at your normal meeting on the 5th of May. That's not going to happen. I do believe that we need to have a work session to where all of this budget information can be presented to you all. We have time to discuss that with you, and you can ask questions. We can fine-tune the budget based on what you see needs to be amended. So I think I need to get with Kyle. We are to meet next week on this issue and go through the numbers together. So once we have that information together, I'm sure we will get a date set for a workshop. We have until June. The actual budget has to be adopted in June. So I think us having maybe this information for our May work session would be sufficient. And that way he can present an actual balanced budget to you all in June. Other than that, that's pretty much where we stand with that information as far as revenues go, and the uncertainty of COVID-19. We're holding flat with the revenues. We will not know probably until this event has passed what our revenue losses will be. Our sales tax revenue is typically 2 months behind. So, we won't know what April's sales tax revenue collections are until about June. So by that point, it's a little too late. However, with that being said, I do feel like even though our local businesses, we may lose sales tax through them with their closures, we will definitely make that up through our big box stores. So I'm not that concerned with how much revenue we're going to lose through sales tax. I think at the end of the day, it will all balance itself out. But overall, I think we're just going to hold that flat to be on the safe side. And so that just makes things easier moving into the new fiscal year. Other than that, that's all I have as far as the budget update. If you guys have any questions.
Anybody got any questions? Probably not a whole lot yet. But we will have for long probably. But that sounds better anyway. Thank you, Ashley. That makes us feel a little better. So, but I know we're still going to have some things we're going to have to look at and probably hold it tight through this next year. That's for sure. Also, I guess what I should have done to start with was let you all know that the reason Kyle is not here, he has sleep deprivation. Now, the reason he has that, probably majority of the people listening to this are aware of it, but they just had their first child. And they had it, I think, was it Saturday, I believe, was when he had the child. And as of yesterday, he said he had not slept yet. So welcome to parenthood. So we'll give him another day or two to finally catch up on his sleep. But anyway, we do want to congratulate him. They had a little boy, and I think most things are going pretty good. So anyway, with the baby anyway, I don't know about the parents. You know how that goes. So anyway, do we have any more comments of anything? If not, I think, are we going, Stephanie, are we going to suspend this meeting? So go right ahead. Go ahead.
I would like to request a motion to amend the 2020 meeting calendar for the May 5th meeting to move that meeting to 10 a.m. instead of 6:30 in the evening.
Oh, I thought I did. No, I just put it on the agenda, right? Yeah. I put it on the agenda. Okay. And then also,
is that on the agenda? This is a special meeting.
They voted at the beginning. They voted at the beginning to amend the calendar. To amend the agenda to add
the
calendar, the singing hall, and fireworks.
Okay.
Right. I amended the calendar at the beginning before we approved the agenda to amend the meeting calendar, May the 5th, to move it to 10 a.m. Also, Sand Hall, I had not turned my paper back what it was, and also fireworks. So do I have a motion to amend the May 5th meeting to move it till 10 a.m.? Do I have a motion on that?
I second Teresa Batts. Mr. Councilman Fowler, I second Teresa Batts' motion.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And by the way, hopefully by May, we will have a video meeting video conference instead of just a voice conference. So we're looking forward to that, and you'll be able to see our happy faces again. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to Stephanie, and she has two items that she'd like to discuss. One is Sand Hall, and the other one is fireworks. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yes, so yesterday TI Coastal provided us with an update. As of last Friday, C.M. Mitchell had deployed their equipment off the beach as we were under the impression that the sand haul was complete. There were 5 areas in Area 11 that were actually in need of more sand. The sand mine was down for the Easter break and opened on Tuesday. C.M. Mitchell resumed the placement of the sand on Tuesday afternoon. It's my understanding that they will finish Area 11 as of this week. As of yesterday, there was only 5 houses left to put sand in front. And then C.M. Mitchell will be wrapping up with some checklist items that we had for them. And other than that, the sand haul will be complete for the emergency firm haul.
Hey, Stephanie, this is Dwight. I had a question in regards to that. Didn't we approve some money to finish continuous berm on this project, or did that change somewhere along the line? Did they run?
No, sir. Yes, sir. So you guys approved an extra $2 million that would extend the berm north of the pier and that would patch the places that had not previously received sand. Following Florence in January of 2019, or it may have been the 1st of February, we put a berm, started the emergency berm haul in every area that was considered imminent critical. After some discussions between our engineer, FEMA, and our finance department, it was decided that we would go back to the north end, and any place that did not receive sand before Florence, or excuse me, after Florence, would be receiving sand at this time. So it patched those places that had not previously had sand. So this has been an ongoing project since the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, thank you. But so is it continuous now, or are there still some spots that are not covered?
Every property along the Surf City oceanfront has received sand for the emergency berm haul. In some places where the breaches were, we have gone back and patched those. There have been breaches again since then. As this is an emergency temporary measure, unfortunately, it would just be a continuous effort to keep the berm 100% across the whole entire oceanfront.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I think we may have a couple of houses that protruded out too far to put the berm in front of. Is that not correct?
There are about 6 or 7 properties on the north end that protruded out, and there was sand placed in front of those. That sand has since been completely gone. 5 of those houses are in Area 11, which are set to be receiving the sand this week. I personally spoke with Jamie this morning, and they had placed sand in the 2020 block of North Shore, and we're working back towards the Pender Avenue area where they're expected to complete the last of the sand drop.
Those were the houses that they are working on now. Okay, all right. That'll look better anyway. Okay, so you through with Sand Hall?
Yes. So the next item
Anybody
is
else? Go ahead.
The next
Go ahead,
item
please.
is, I'm sorry, do you have a question?
Stephanie. No, Stephanie, go ahead.
So next we have our July 3rd fireworks show, which we contract with Zambelli's every year. I have been in touch with our project manager, Tony Saldi, back and forth. Basically, we have to decide by April the 20th if we would like to postpone that, so move forward with that, or apply that deposit until next year's event. If we do not make a decision by April the 20th, we are tied to the date of July 3rd, or we lose the deposit. So I'm
okay, does
asking
anybody have a
for,
comment on that?
Consideration.
Mayor,
So are
Councilman
we,
Fowler.
What is the cost? What's the deposit? This is Dwight.
The cost on that deposit is $10,000.
And then
Mayor,
the
this is
total
Councilman
cost?
Fowler again.
I'm sorry, buddy. And the total cost?
The total cost for the fireworks show this year is budgeted for $20,000.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
Mayor, this is Councilman Fowler again. Due with this
Okay.
epidemic that's going on and everything else we've got going on, we're not sure exactly, well, what I'm thinking, and keeping safety of our community in mind. I know we'd all love to have things to go to. I would like to make a motion that we postpone our fireworks and forego them this year and just look forward to next year.
Okay. Anybody else got a?
Mr. Mayor? Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
this is Jeremy. Although I completely appreciate the concern, I don't want to put the horse before the cart right now. It is still, this is April, so May, June. It is 3 months away still, and I'm not sure. 100% confident that that's their best decision to make currently right now. I mean, that's something that our community and people look forward to each year. It's a staple of our community, and I think it shows resolve when we do things. And if I think that we just, I don't know, I'm not in a complete agreement with that. I'm not in disagreement with what Councilman Fowler said about the safety, but I don't believe that making that decision today for fireworks in July is the best thing. So that's just my thoughts.
Mayor,
Okay.
Councilman Fowler again.
Has anyone reached out? If I may, this is Brian Eads, Town Attorney. Has anyone reached out to see if they would give us an extension past the 20th? I think you said April 20th, Stephanie. Is that right?
Yes, April 20th is what I was told about 2 weeks ago, and I've been in contact with him yesterday and this morning.
And they won't budge on that date under these circumstances?
Per our contract, we have the option to postpone, delay, or request back our deposit before April the 20th. After April
That's what I'm saying. I
20th,
mean,
then
but if they could give us to, like, I don't know, even just 2 more weeks through a contract amendment.
Attorney Eads, I'm not interrupting, but I think any company that doesn't take the circumstance in consideration, maybe we should find another company. I mean, I hate to say this, but it doesn't seem viable at all that they would force those demands on us within the current situation.
Well, exactly, and it's a lot of money. I see both sides of this equation. I do think you want to give people hope, and our eyes are on the finish line. But losing $10,000 at this time, especially, is a lot of money for the town citizens and residents. Stephanie, have they said, like, unequivocally, I'm not going to budge on this, or have we not asked the question yet? Or
I've not asked for an extension. I just sent that into a request to Tony. It was sent out about 2 weeks ago that these were the guidelines due to COVID-19 related with all of them daily contracts.
This is Dwight. I'm in agreement with everyone as asking for a delay, an extension on this deposit, and I would definitely try to pursue like a 30-day, if at all possible, and see where they go from there.
Ashley, have you contacted the base yet with what they're doing? Because I know these things
No,
do the base.
I'm sorry. We have reached out to Camp Lejeune, to the director for that event on numerous occasions this week, and we have not been able to get in contact with those. At this time, we have been in contact with Leland and with Southport. Leland has canceled all events through June the 30th at this time.
Okay. But they still
Mr.
don't
Mayor.
have their fireworks yet. Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Excuse me.
Don,
Go ahead, Don.
I think
Go ahead, Don.
I hate to put this on him, but I would like to see the attorney contact them and tell them that we need a extension for at least 2 weeks before we turn around and cancel this. Our people look forward to this every year, and we're 3 months out, and I don't want to just cancel the fireworks altogether. A lot of things can happen in 3 months, and we could regret this. And if we cancel it, and I would like to see an extension, or at least
I'll be happy to do that. Just Stephanie, if you'll
Excuse me,
email me the contact information.
I got an answer from Tony. He said that he will give us to any time between now and May 15th to cancel or postpone until 2021. So he will give you until the 15th of May. So it'll be an item for your May work session.
I'll draft a formal amendment to the contract, and we need a motion to amend the contract to accept that extension, and then I'll draft an amendment, and we can move on.
Do I have a motion on that? Okay, Don made the motion. Do I have a second?
A second for Councilman Shugarts.
Okay, Sugars, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, Mr. Bryan, you work with Stephanie and get that extended.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that. Maybe things will look a
Mayor,
lot better by that time.
Certainly
Yes,
hope
sir.
so. The items that back to a amended or restated declaration of state of emergency. One, I don't know that I heard a consensus as to the effective date, and two, did we address extending the ban on short-term vacation rentals through the end of the month? I can't remember what date, or I don't have it in front of me, what date our present bans lifted. And so those two items, I'd like to get a consensus on when the new one would take effect, i.e. the opening, and then secondly, how long is the vacation rental ban going to remain?
Okay, the rental ban, I think we pretty much agreed to go for the short-term rentals until Governor Cooper lifts the travel ban, and at that time, we would reassess it.
Does anyone else on the council have any, does anyone disagree with that? Okay, the second question then would be, when would the new state of emergency become effective, opening the accesses? I can probably have that. Yes, sir. I can probably have that drafted today. I don't know if it'll be by close of business today. I have several other meetings, and in fact, I have a hard break at 11:30. I can call back as needed, but I would say that the order can be, just to be safe, by noon tomorrow. And then the question would be, when does it become effective? And we need enough time to consult with Parks and Rec and Chief Shanahan to get their input to finalize the order, and enough time for them to be ready for the opening. So I defer to Chief on how much time he thinks he needs. I won't need that long to draft the thing once we have the input I need to draft it.
Okay. Well, I think this is Councilman Fowler. Didn't the governor's order go to April 29th? If that's the case, and we're going to take care of them short-term rentals and put them off, then the effective date that it can start short-term rentals again will probably be May the 1st, according to some of the emails I've got from the realty people and all.
Well, it would be Okay, it would run until Governor Cooper lifts the travel ban. So he really hadn't said when he was going to lift the travel ban yet. I think a lot of people think it'll be May the 15th when he lifts the travel ban. I just don't know, but at that time, then we could reassess this, right?
You can reassess it literally every 5 minutes.
Right.
I suggest, though, we select a date because we want to make sure the public understands where they're getting their cue from as to short-term rentals. I mean, I don't want them to have to carry 15 different orders around trying to figure out when what was lifted and so on and so forth. If we pick a date certain, then that gives the public and the town and the PD certainty. But,
Attorney
as far
Eads,
as we know,
Councilman Shugarts. Attorney Eads, I'm sorry, Councilman Shugarts. We don't need an end date for short-term rentals, right? We don't need to actually have an end date on that, correct?
One net. But during our conference call earlier this week with the other two towns, we all discussed various dates. And again, all of this is subject to change on the circumstances. I mean, if a miracle happens and there's an antiviral available forever, that'd be wonderful. If contagion explodes around here and our healthcare system's overwhelmed, then that'd go the other way. So all of these are just to give some sort of guidance to the public, benchmark dates, and then we reevaluate. Well, we reevaluate on a daily basis, but then at least on that date or prior to a date certain, we would have to make another decision. And I think that's the best way to manage it, because you don't.
Okay.
There's going to be all.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to vacillate back and forth between two different orders to determine when your town's vacation rentals are going to be opening up.
Okay.
Excuse me, this is Dwight,
Right.
Councilman. This is Dwight. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Since we put the moratorium in place, I thought we should be the ones to, because that's who they looked at and listened to. We put it into effect. We should probably give a date, whatever date you decide that is, Mayor, and then maybe with the caveat that should the governor, go earlier than said date, then we would go we would recognize the governor's order and lift it earlier rather than later. But we should have a firm date that we could move as needed. That way there's not this, never ending, when is it going to happen? Right now, that would give
that's kind of my point. I agree.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I don't think we need to say. I think that we need to retain the decision-making power, i.e., it's not automatic just because the governor lifts the ban, because what's going on statewide may not be necessarily what's going on locally. So that's the whole reason Chapter 166A bestows these emergency management powers on municipalities.
Okay.
I mean, clearly we'll take our guidance from the governor's order, and if he lifts a travel ban, that will be significant. I would think that would have some significant influence, but it's not end all be all. I mean, it's still our decision based on circumstances in our town.
Right.
Our
Well, that was the reason I said reassess at that time. But if you want to put an end date on it, we can put it on there, whatever date y'all think.
Hey, Doug.
The only reason
Doug,
this was after talking with the rental people, and the reason they suggested that is because when we put an end date on it, every what end date we put on, then they have to refund deposits up until that date. So they automatically lose all those rentals. So that's the reason we don't want to put it too far out, So, I guess we can go
I'm
with
fine with that.
Hey, Doug, this is
Okay.
Dwight again.
Yeah.
So I received an email from a vacation rental property owner who lives in Raleigh but owns the property here in Surf City, and very nice couple, Mr. and Miss Proud, I believe is the last name. I don't know if you know him or not, but they were very complimentary in nature with their email and the restrictions and what we've done to try to take the appropriate steps. But they requested that you consider whatever the opening date is be a Saturday for obvious reasons. That gives the people a full week of stay once we open it up, right? And then also, if possible, and I don't know, I didn't understand this part, you may understand it better, but that you at least give them 30-day notice. It had something to do with the 50% deposit. So it may very well be going towards what the deposit concern you just brought up, but just wanted to bring that front as a note to do it on a Saturday. That way they get a full week on their first opening round. Over.
Yeah, well, see, well, the 15th is on a Friday, and turnover the next week would start the next day. So,
that's what I mean.
That would work. That would work out as far as the rental basis is. So just open the floor.
So Doug,
up
this is Teresa.
Yeah.
So right now our
Okay.
date is April 22nd, which is next Wednesday.
Right.
That's what we are going by right now. So if our attorney is telling us to pick a date, so the only date that we could logically pick right now is going to be the governor's date. If we say May 15th, and if we still see that, we need to adjust that date, we can always adjust that date if we need to, correct?
Right. Correct. Yes. Yeah, we can always adjust that date.
Mr. Mayor, this is
15th
Don.
with the 15th. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, this is Don.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Why don't we make it, the 16th is on a Saturday, so if we make it on the 15th, May the 15th, wouldn't that, Brian, wouldn't that be acceptable? Because if he does, if the governor, if we're lucky enough the governor does his the 15th, we would already have ours in place to open it back up the 16th.
Let's go to 15th, and the reason is,
Yes.
If we put down the date of the 16th, then they're gonna have to refund deposits for all rentals through the 16th. See, that would be the rentals of the next week. So the 15th would work better.
That's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do I have a consensus on May the 15th?
Yes.
This is
John,
John. Yes.
I'll call them out. Jeremy, Don.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Torres. Okay.
Yes.
Buddy.
Yes.
Teresa.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Brian, we'll go till the 15th then. Okay. And
Okay, and
I guess-
assuming we can get the order finalized tomorrow, what day? And if Chief Shanahan's still on the call, I'd be interested in hearing if he has any thoughts on it. What day would the new order take effect? I.e., when would the accesses be open?
what you think, Chief?
So certainly I can meet up with Chad today. I have some things written down the last couple of days. I did identify some areas, some accesses and so forth. I could certainly have something, I was thinking about a day's end, if I get up with Chad and chat with him a little bit and get some input from the operations group that we've been meeting with on call every day. Chat with them. I certainly can have something by the end of the day. As far as when we can put this in effect, I'll certainly leave that up to mayor and council. This weekend might be soon. But I certainly, you can look maybe midweek next week instead of getting overwhelmed on the weekend, have people kind of ease in on it maybe. Looking at, somewhere in the middle of next week would be good. But I'm certainly open for any suggestions. I'll certainly follow whatever you all decide to do. But I will have something out today that can identify those access.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
this
Brian. Yeah. Go ahead, Don.
why don't we just make it Wednesday of next week? That would help.
Mr. Mayor, this is Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm trying to understand. I appreciate, I don't understand what the delay would be, why we need to wait till Wednesday. If we open up, you pick in 2 to 4 access, you make the decision, you open them up. I don't see the need to wait. We're already, it's almost going against what you're trying to do, which is wanting to provide people an opportunity to exercise, get out, get fresh air, a peace of mind. Why would we put that out? That's technically 6 more days from now. So I completely disagree with the fact that we should wait. If we're going to do it, let's do it and move on.
This is
Okay.
Teresa.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I would suggest that we open up all beach accesses. You're going to keep the parking closed, so you're going to open up all beach accesses, no bathrooms. If you open up just a few, then you're going to have people start gathering at just those few. So I would say, the PD can patrol parking, but for them to actually, it's going to be more of a headache on them to pick and choose which accesses that they're going to close. So I would suggest less to open up all accesses unless, the big accesses, I'll leave that up to the chief at his discretion. But I think as far as all the small accesses, those should be open.
Okay.
And one other thing, I don't know, and the attorney may be able to answer this. As far as if you open them up, do we have to have a handicap access open as well?
That's an excellent question. I would err on the side of yes, due to the ADA concerns. Again, I think courts will be lenient on elected officials during these times if they act rationally and have a legitimate reason for taking the steps that they're taking. But to the extent we can have it and have a handicapped access open and it's not overwhelming to the PD or cause any other logistical issues, then yes, I would say have one open.
I think the only AD access is unless we fix the one at the Central. I don't know where we have yet or not, but the only one that's the only ones we had open was the Hatteras ramp accesses, which are AD capable.
This is Dwight, if I can have a minute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Dwight.
I'm in agreement with Teresa in regards to opening them all if we're going to just limit the no parking and going with the, you may be dropped off kind of method. And also in agreement with maybe not opening up the center one just because it would obviously become kind of a gathering point. But I'm also in agreement with Jeremy in regards to why wait. And with all due respect to Chief, with the overwhelming weekend maybe numbers, but I mean when we're wide open, it's very overwhelming and we're able to manage it. So I don't think it's going to be something that's not manageable by the size of the police force that we have. I don't think it's decreased by much in comparison to what they have during a normal cycle. So to just open up the beach access, give them, whatever time the Chad's team needs to, or whoever it is, to open the access, if it's 24, 48 hours, but I really wouldn't see the need to wait beyond that. We've been tied up and locked up for a while. It'd be nice to get some people a sense of relief. Over.
Okay. Anybody else, or Chief, have you got any comments?
No, sir, not at this time. I said, I will reach out to the group, and we'll have some identified accesses. And again, I've been chewing on this for the last few days, just looking at, some of the accesses. And, I will say, just looking at the notes I've written down, and certainly I want to address it to the group, but, identifying all accesses south of the S-curve, the 1400 block of South Shore Drive, there's an access there. Looking up on the north end, Mecklenburg, Craven, Jones, Lenore, Pender essentially already has an open access there where they've been doing some work, and potentially East 9th Street. So that's just again, preliminary view that I've looked at. That could be potential openings, but certainly, I'll meet up with the team and later on this afternoon and put our recommendations into y'all, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Mayor
All
Medlin,
right, when do you
Mayor
want
Medlin, this is Councilman,
Yes, sir.
Mayor Medlin,
Yes,
this is
sir.
Councilman Shugarts. I am in agreement with Councilman Torres and Councilman Batts that if we should open all of them with no parking. I think that I agree with the other two councilmen in this situation 100%. Teresa's logic was good and Dwight's logic was good, so I also agree with that aspect also.
Mr. Mayor, this is Don Helms. Mr. Mayor. Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Don. Go ahead, Don. Sorry, I was muted. Go ahead, Don.
It's going to be, are you talking about opening the access there at the Welcome Center and the access down there in front of the fire department that's handicapped? It's going to be kind of hard to open that access without opening parking, and that's going to be a problem. And are we going to leave, and you're going to have to give the attorney time to do his paperwork before we jump right into this. So, and I'm not saying that we need to open them up tomorrow, because I don't know whether the attorney and everything gets all this paperwork done. But if we open up all the accesses, you're opening up the one there at Roland Avenue, and you're opening up the parking area there at the fire department, and you're going to have people parking in there. So you need to think about and let the chief pick the accesses instead of just opening up all of them.
I agree with you, Don.
I think one or two people getting towed will satisfy.
If I could make one suggestion for Chief Shanahan, maybe at the welcome, if we need to keep the main access closed, one of the openings at the driveways at the Welcome Center, you could always, put a sign out there that says handicap parking only, and there will be you would be able to make control that one parking lot there rather than two with handicap.
Okay, where is
Handicap
that at
parking.
now?
Well, right in front of the Welcome Center. You know how there's two drives that go into the Welcome Center. So you just have the one closest to the Roland access open, and you put a sign out there that says handicap parking only, towing enforced.
Okay, so would that access only be open for handicap?
Well, just the ramp itself, not the pavilion, not underneath the shelter, just the ramp itself. You can still keep the shelter roped off, and just the handicap ramp itself would be open.
Okay. Have we fixed that handicap ramp yet? It was not wheelchair accessible the last time I looked at it.
Mayor, this is Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
So I went out with Matt Mitchell, and they were pushing the sand up over there to try to make that a little more smoother transition. So from what I understand, I've not been back over there since the last few days. So I'll have to go over and see what status we're in. But there's a couple of things that we would have to do to ensure that it's filled in and it's safe for people to be able to utilize. But that should take me probably about half a day.
Okay. All right. Well, I know last time I had looked at it, it wasn't, but yeah, I knew you were going to try to get it done. So anyway, okay. All right. That's
Mr.
fine.
Mayor, when you get,
Yeah,
I have one more final thing for you. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, this is Jeremy. I have one more thing. I know you want to get to the closure on this. I apologize. Okay. So
That's all right.
if I'm understanding this, Teresa and Dwight and myself feel confident that we feel that opening all the accesses would be good, keeping parking closed. If I understand this, I think speaking to you, you told me, I'm not sure, I don't remember, if the North Topsail and Topsail Beach, all their public accesses are open, but there's no parking available, either one of those. So this kind of coincides with everything. It kind of, it creates a non-flooded any access. If every access on a 26-mile beach is open, it mitigates the problem of having large amounts of people go to one certain access. So I don't know what we need to do to move forward, but I'm just wanting to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Okay. Yeah, but now our biggest concern is we're going to have to get the word out. Still no congregating, no groups over 10, and social distancing will still be in effect, even though those things are open. So if you have a bunch of them parking, around the center of town and everybody goes to the Central Beach access and goes over, then they still can't congregate in front of the Central Beach access with more than 10 people. So that's going to be probably the biggest area that's going to have to be patrolled, probably. Do you not feel
Hey, Doug,
like it's
I'm sorry, Doug, Mayor. Does that mean that
Yes,
they're
sir.
allowed to come on the beach? Or did we say they can come on the beach with chairs and like it's a normal day at the beach? And no? Or is the intent to just have them coming on short term and walking the dog and take, or are they going to be allowed to just come on the beach and have the chairs and spend the day?
Councilman, Council Brian, what do you think on that?
What I have seen, initial discussions in other beach towns and counties are transient, well, not transient, but moving, no umbrellas, no sunbathing, no chairs, no, sports on the beach, like no throwing footballs and stuff like that, essentially designed to allow people to swim, surf, and walk or jog on the beach.
Okay, what does everybody think about that?
This is Councilman Shugarts. I think that I don't know if we want to start getting into enforcing chairs. I mean, as Doug, as you have done, when I patrolled the beach with Corporal Bailey, there might have been 60, 70 people on the entire beach in 7 miles, and there might have been half of them were sitting in chairs, and nobody was sitting in groups. It was everybody was being responsible. So I don't know if we really want to go down that road. I think that's another caveat where it's another thing we're getting into we don't want to.
Okay, anybody else? And I'm in agreement with you. So far, it's been very good so far, but I don't know how it's going to be now.
Yeah, this is Dwight. I agree with Jeremy. If they're I only brought it up so that I have clarity when we leave this discussion as to what we're agreeing to.
Right.
I think if they're keeping their social distance, I don't have a problem with whatever they decide to do. I'm trying to give people their freedom back. Over.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do too. But all right, anybody else?
Well, I'll just say, Mayor, if you looked at what happened in New Hanover County at Masonboro Island and on Wrightsville Beach, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now when it was like 80 degrees and sunny on a Friday. I don't know if it's because the college was out or what, but it was the epitome of a mass gathering. So if we're not having that problem in Surf City, then there's no need to complicate the matter unless Chief Shanahan thinks we should add more restrictions. I was just letting you know what has been considered locally, and if you saw any of those pictures of Riceville Beach or Masonboro Island, I think you would understand that was needed in New Hanover County.
Right. Okay. Chief, weigh in.
Yeah, well, I just, obviously, I respect everybody's opinions on this, and it's something, if you really look at we're unique from Topsail Beach and North Topsail Beach. We hold obviously a big business in the center of town here. My concern is if we obviously open up Roland Beach access to pedestrian traffic and Kinston Beach access to pedestrian traffic and the parking lots are closed, we're going to be overwhelmed in some of these business parking lots, which will generate a lot of issues for us. So that is a concern to me and my staff. I think we'll be overwhelmed with that. I understand that separation is good. Obviously, open up with quite a few accesses and not have people congregating more than 10 people in one general area. But as soon as we do this openness, we'll be the only ones in this region essentially opening up all our beach access. And again, we are unique to uptown, so it's certainly something to consider.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, in Surf City, they can still get something to eat and drink and all that stuff close by the beach, where they can't, at the other two beaches. That's the difference. And like you say, I don't know, probably the biggest problem is going to be the Central Beach access if we open that up. I can understand that needing the handicap access. I don't know. What I would love to do is leave it up to you and you and the committee to figure out what to do on that, if the council's in agreement.
I think that, I don't know about you, but it sounds like, Mr. Mayor, and I would like you to weigh in. I think the three of the council members like to see all the accesses opened. So how do we make that happen, I guess, is the question I'm asking you.
Well, have to work it with the police department. They're the ones that's going to have to patrol it.
Jeremy, I just wanted to say one thing. I think Roland should not be open. I think just the ramp
I agree.
should be open.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay.
This is Dwight. I agree.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is Don.
Yes.
If we don't open Roland,
Right.
the only other handicap we got, you've got the one down there at the fire department, but you're opening up the parking also there. But you could rope that off and just have the handicap open. But
what you could do now, how many parking spaces is it at Wilmington?
it's not the Wilmington one, it's the one, it's crossover there.
Just north of Wilmington.
Yeah, it's probably 15, 20 parking spaces.
Oh, Lordy. Okay, maybe they could just rope it all off except just a few spaces and mark them as handicap spaces.
That's fine. We don't need to jump instantly. Like I said, you've got to give you've got to give Ron time, you've got to give Parks and Rec time, and you've got to give the lawyer time to get all this done before we jump into it.
Right. Okay.
Whether that be Sunday, whether that be Monday, whatever, it's going to be hard for them to get it done and put out for tomorrow.
Right. Okay. All right. So what day do we want to go with? Monday?
I think we ought to go with it Monday. That would give the fire department, the police department, Parks and Rec, and our attorney time to get the paperwork done, and get the Parks and Rec, give them time to get what they need to do, and it would also give us time to publicize it to where everybody would know it.
Councilman Helms, this is Councilman Shugarts. I really appreciate your concern, but we closed the accesses in less than 1 day. I don't know why it would take 4 days to reopen them. I'm trying to figure the math. We put the urgency to close these quickly and put a lot of pressure on everybody to get that done. It was done before close of business on the Friday from the time we made a decision on Thursday evening. So I'm not sure what the delay would need to be. You know, also, if parking is a concern, let's remember something too. Chief and Ashley, this goes to you because I think you're acting on Kyle's behalf. We have a code enforcement officer that you could possibly resource more to that aspect of the beach right now to help with police. Is that correct? Because he does do parking as one of his job descriptions. Is that correct, Ashley?
I would say yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that's another resource that we have available to us because we pay for that resource that can handle all that effort. I mean, we can just task him to that if you guys deem necessary to take some of that responsibility up our police department. But I don't see the need to take 96 hours to do something that we did in 18 hours to close them.
Okay, Ron, when do you think you could have it ready?
Well, certainly, like I said, I can get up with the staff today in the operations team and then chat with them, and I can have something out this afternoon. And obviously, whatever the council's recommendations are, and your recommendations will certainly follow.
Or do we want to try to do it Saturday? Would that give council and police and everybody and CAD time to get everything done?
This is Dwight. I agree with Saturday if it's achievable.
From the legal side, from the legal side, in all candor, I can, as long as I have the information to put in the declaration, I can have it done probably by tomorrow afternoon, depending on when I get the final information from the chief and Parks and Rec.
Mayor, this is Chad.
Go right ahead, Chad.
My guys can do it whatever timeline that the chief and you guys decide. Obviously, I need about probably a half day.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, this is
Mayor,
Councilman Fowler. Let's go ahead and shoot for Saturday. Open up to 7 million Saturday at all the beach access.
Okay, except the central?
Yeah, except the central. And no parking.
I agree with Councilman Fowler. This is Councilman Shugarts.
Okay. Chief, can we put handicap parking in at Wilmington or just north of Wilmington, whatever that's called?
Yeah, we can work something out certainly over there. I think Ms. Batts had a good point, utilizing the possibly community center access for handicap only. I think it's more controllable there. I thought that was a good suggestion if you're going to do a handicap specific area.
So you think we're better off opening up the central beach access then?
Well, if you open up for handicap personnel only and isolate that parking lot in the community center, I think it's safer. It's a safer ramp. But again, hold it to only handicap parking only in there.
Okay, I'll leave that up to you. Y'all just do what you want to do and then get the information to go ahead and open up we're going to open up, and then list everything out and get it to the attorney so that he can go ahead and get this written up tomorrow and make it going into effect Saturday morning at 7:30. Okay?
Roland?
Mayor, if I may suggest this, I think staff and I have heard what we need to hear, and if we'll get the input and then we'll circulate it to the council. If anybody has any heartburn about, the order's not just going to get, the order will be circulated before you sign it and it takes effect.
Okay, all right.
Because as they look at this, they may have some logistical solutions or something that makes sense. For instance, like
that's what I'm saying. I think we'll go along with whatever they can lay out that they think that they can handle. And this way we're getting it as quick as we can get it, done as quick as we can get it, and do it in a reasonable way, but give them time to lay out what they think that they can control and look after, right?
That's my thoughts. Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. Anything else on this?
No, sir.
I guess we got about 10 more minutes, right? Stephanie?
Mayor, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If it's okay with you and the council,
ahead, council.
I need to drop off. If anyone needs me, if someone will just send
Okay.
me a text, and I'll see what I can do to call back in.
All right, and then Ron will get the information to you on the accesses, or Ashley will, and or Stephanie. I guess Ron just needs to get it to Stephanie, and then she's got the notes from what we talked about, so you can give it to you and get it all together. And
yes, sir.
If you need to get up with me, Stephanie, after the meeting, we'll just go through it again. Make sure everything's covered. Okay?
Okay, that
and
sounds
just
good.
last thing is, as we start circulating the order, I just remind everybody, do not reply to all. We can't debate in the email.
Right.
So just
okay.
If you have any issues, don't reply to a majority. Reply to just me and perhaps Stephanie and the mayor, and we'll work it out that way.
Okay.
And I wish you all well.
All right.
And to call me
Will do.
back if you need me. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good one. Okay. Thank you. All right, Stephanie.
Mayor, I would
just hold on.
I would just like to, if you would, ask for a 15-minute recess, and that would put us all back in about 2 to 12. And when you come back in, you'll be with the planning board and Wes McLeod from Cape Fear Cog.
Okay, so do we need to call back in at that time?
Yes, sir. You could just call back in at about 2 or 3 till 12 if you'll call for a recess of this meeting at this time.
Okay, do I have a motion for a recess?
I
make a motion we recess.
Okay, and Jeremy seconded it. All right, all in
Yeah.
favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
We will recess now until 2 minutes to 12. Okay, thank you. For you people here, looks like we got a big crowd. Now, we're not as privileged as the planning board. We're having a voice conference when the planning board has a video conference. Now, I don't know whether Jason's thinking that the board doesn't look as good as the planning board. I may have to agree, but anyway, we are on a voice conference, but we appreciate everybody being here. And at this time, I will turn it over to Stephanie to introduce Mr. West, who is an excellent speaker.
Yes, this afternoon we are welcoming Wes MacLeod, the Cape Fear Council of Governments. He's the Local Government Services Director, and he's going to go over a comprehensive land use plan with us today. Welcome, Wes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Can you hear me, Stephanie, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I can hear you good, Wes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the kind words. As Stephanie said, I'm Wes MacLeod with Cape Fear Council of Governments, coming to you from remotely from my garage. So thank you all for inviting me to participate in this. I wish we could all meet in person, but obviously that's not the case. Nonetheless, I believe you all should have received a PowerPoint presentation or PDF that we'll go through. And as I advance the slides, I will let you all know for those of you that want to follow along on the slides. But be advised, you certainly don't have to. You're welcome to just listen in. I'm going to try to make my remarks as brief as possible. And then when I finish my presentation, I will open it up for questions. I think that'd be the easiest way to proceed. And with that, I will move along here to advance to the second slide. The second slide has a quote. The quote is, "Planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now." And I think this is a good way to think about why local governments want to engage in doing a comprehensive plan or a land use plan. The author of the quote is a well-known time management novelist or author, but this is quite fitting. This allows you all to think about what's important to you and then start figuring out how to backtrack from those goals that you have to accomplish those things that are really desirable of the elected officials and primarily, certainly, the public at large. And so we'll move on to slide number 3. And just as just to point out, each of the slides do have a slide number in the corner, in the bottom corner. So some of you may be asking, well, what is a comprehensive plan? I don't really understand what that is. The way I think about it is it is primarily a policy document that establishes guiding principles for how a particular local government should proceed on community development and other items relating to capital needs for departments. But those guiding principles are based upon the community's vision and goals, and also upon fairly extensive analysis of existing and future conditions. So it really sets the stage for, how a particular local government can proceed over a number of years, and ensuring that how they are proceeding is in line with what the constituents want to see happen, and also just in general the property owners. We don't only survey full-time residents. We also want to understand what the second homeowners also want to see happen in the jurisdiction. And then just, I want to note that the term comprehensive plan and land use plan are used interchangeably. So you may hear me refer to it as a land use plan or a comprehensive plan or someone else, but those are generally interchangeable. The only distinction typically with a comprehensive plan is it may address things a little bit more outside of just land use and growth management. You may want to understand some of the departmental needs throughout Surf City and how they relate to growth management. All right, we'll advance to slide number 4. So as I stated, this is typically a policy document that presents your long-term vision and goals, but it also guides short-term land use and development approval decisions. This particular document will include recommendations to revise your existing zoning ordinance or figure out what's important to enhance in terms of your recreational facilities, for example, or transportation networks. And when we're talking about transportation networks, that extends beyond the automobile. That'd be also your cyclists and your pedestrians and the things that they feel are important. For particularly for beach towns, it's important to understand, what are some of those needs of the permanent residents versus seasonal visitors. It is often important to understand those. Obviously, typically they're going to be more tailored to the residents and the property owners, but still important for the business owners and elected officials to understand what is desirable about the town by those folks that are coming during the peak season. And then also, how are we handling environmental protection versus job creation, et cetera? And usually I recommend that these plans be updated every 5 to 7 years, especially for a fast-growing municipality like the town of Surf City. All right, moving on to slide number 5. So a big piece of any comprehensive plan is the public engagement. In ensuring that you have a robust public engagement and involvement helps legitimize that final plan for adoption so that the elected officials, the town council, can be comfortable adopting a plan that is supported by its citizenry. Part of that is also attempting to reach the less engaged and underrepresented citizens, and there's various ways that this can be done. You can have a standalone steering committee of community members at large that are, appointed by the town council. You also typically would have a community-wide survey that's available online in hard copy format. You can have stakeholder interviews with important folks, a website, etc. And the goal of that is really wanting to understand from folks, where do they want their to be in 25 years? That's just kind of an example. The picture there is from a public engagement meeting that we went to in Pender Lee to actually go out and help figure out, go meet the people where they live, figure out what's important to them. Your town manager, Kyle, was part of that meeting. But that's one of the examples of really trying to flesh out the needs of the community. Now, I'll add that typically in beach communities, it's a lot easier to get public engagement. Folks are willing to share what's important to them. So we would anticipate having a fairly extensive amount of public engagement and survey results to share as a result of this comprehensive plan, should the town proceed with doing one. Okay, moving on to slide number 6. The town council is aware of some of these demographic changes that have been happening, but the comprehensive plan will flesh these out in fairly extensive detail, understanding, who we are, what the population, housing, economy, the age of the jurisdiction is, income, education, et cetera, and what are some of those changes that are happening, past growth trends and future projections. We noted when the council had a retreat that the population has increased by over 100% since 1990. And that's your permanent population. You've also had an extensive amount of new second homes as well. So that's an extensive amount of increasing demand on all the town departments, critical facilities, infrastructure, et cetera. That's very important to take into account. All right, moving on to slide 7. In general, this is a sort of a flow chart here, or an image that sort of gives you a sense of how the comprehensive plan works. You want to establish your vision, which is based upon that public engagement, your engagement with staff, elected officials, and other stakeholders to help establish your goals, which then help establish your policies. And then, as the real kind of important piece of that is you then have recommended actions that are very clear in outlining the things that should be done or could be done to help achieve those items. Now, those recommended actions are just that. They're not required. They're merely items at which each of the various departments can use, not only in their budget process, but in trying to move forward some of the ideas that are important to the citizens and property owners. And that's all put together also in a big table with fiscal years attached to them and departmental responsibility as well. All right, moving on to slide 8. Typical elements of a comprehensive plan, and I've talked about this, but this just sort of shows it all here in one slide, are the community vision and goals, the community's history, those demographic trends and projections, and then the topic areas really relate to these 5 things: your natural systems and environmental constraints, the utility and infrastructure capacity. How does the town support in this projected growth? The transportation systems, the recreation and open space, and then of course land use and growth management, which is interrelated with all of those 4 items above. Okay, moving on to slide 9. So in terms of land use and its interrelatedness, all these items relate to that. What are the population trends and other development drivers? What are the residential, commercial, et cetera, land use trends? But, what types of residential uses are desired, types of commercial, et cetera? Where are those future development areas best located? And more importantly, where are they best not located? Considering environmental constraints, infrastructure capacity, desires of the community, et cetera. What utilities and infrastructure will support development? Are there capacity deficiencies? We can't necessarily have the growth, the desirable growth that we want without the critical infrastructure in place, water, wastewater, et cetera. And then what are those policies and criteria that help the local officials make effective land use decisions? Now, I note effective there, but typically those are very difficult decisions that may be controversial. It's very important that this plan, provides the clear direction of the public on what they want to see happen. It really helps us, often controversial land use decisions have a little bit better support on whichever direction the town may choose to go. Okay, moving on to slide 10. So one of the things that's required of the North Carolina legislature are statements of planning consistency. These are statutory requirements of the planning board, and I have Board of Commissioners here, but the planning board and town council to comment on the consistency of any proposed text amendment or rezoning as to its consistency with the town's comprehensive plan or land use plan. And as a part of that, you must also state whether, obviously the action is consistent or inconsistent, but why it may be in the public interest. So hopefully, the land use plan will be clear in guiding the town in helping to put together these statements of planning consistency. And then lastly, the town can act inconsistent with the land use plan if they want. You're not bound by the guidance of the land use plan. It is just that. It is guidance. It's not statutory. It's not set in stone. But if you do make an action that is inconsistent with the plan, the land use plan automatically is amended as a result of that inconsistent action. All right. Next slide, slide 11. So the other part of this is, how does CAMA come into play? They have their own criteria for adopting land use plans or comprehensive plans. They require each of the 20 coastal counties to have an adopted plan. You already do have a plan in place that's adopted. I'll note that typically especially historically, the plans have been very heavy on the environmental side of things and environmental in nature. But in the recent past, they have made those rules, the CAMA guidelines, a little bit more flexible to allow your comprehensive plan to really be guided by public engagement versus sort of a overly burdensome rubric to meet their rules. So now we typically recommend that your comprehensive plan also become your CAMA plan, and we have a process and an outline for how to do that so they can be one and the same. And the reason for that is when there are major permits that are proposed, CAMA major permits that are proposed in your jurisdiction, they will require CAMA consistency review. And we typically believe that it's important that your comprehensive plan be the same as your CAMA plan, so there's not sort of two different directions underfoot. And that should be it for the CAMA plan section of this. Moving on to slide 12. So what's the time frame, not only of how far that plan looks out, but how long does it take to get these things done? The typical planning horizon goes out 20 to 30 years, projections out for 20 to 30 years. Again, you want to update these plans every 5 to 7 years. You don't, it depends on the level of update that's required. If you do it every 5 years, you're usually just, refreshing the document. The process itself typically takes 12 to 24 months. There's a long period that occurs for getting these plans adopted, particularly if they're going to be approved by the Coastal Resources Commission. And then just a cost estimate for these usually runs, in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, and that's for your basic plan. It depends on the level of public engagement, et cetera, when establishing that budget. Moving on to slide 13. The last slide I have here before I'll finish my remarks relates to North Carolina General Statute 160D. This was recently adopted, and is this new legislation requires a reorganization of all the city and county land use laws in North Carolina, and which will also result in a significant update of any zoning, subdivision, land development codes across the state. Part of this, those rules are intended to simplify and clarify many outdated or unclear provisions that are in the state statutes. This does require adoption by January 1, 2021. However, due to COVID and sort of the fact that folks are not able to get together and accomplish things as they once were, there is some consideration to move that adoption date to July 1, 2021. And then a big part of this new legislation is it requires adoption. Any jurisdiction that wants to enforce zoning must have a comprehensive plan that is, quote, reasonably maintained. Now, I'm unclear. No one is sure exactly what reasonably maintained means. If you ask in my professional opinion, that is having for a fast-growing local government, having a plan that's updated in the last 5 to 7 years. And so if you all do decide to engage in updating your comprehensive plan here in the recent future, you will take care of this requirement. But again, no one's exactly sure what reasonably maintained means, but I just want to point out that it will be a requirement moving forward should you wish to continue enforcing zoning, which I anticipate that you will want to do. And that is it for my remarks. Thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Wes, one question on this. I know before the state had funds that helped pay for the land use update. Do they still have funds?
The Division of Coastal Management in the past has had funds. My recent dialogue with them was that it was a maybe, but that's certainly something that we could get some better clarity on. But unfortunately, usually it's only a little bit. Like for example, you guys maybe would be able to get it even if they had funds available somewhere in the $7,500 to $15,000 range. But that's a great question, and hopefully something that'll change in the future. But right now, there's not a lot out there.
Yeah, I know one time, and that was one reason they weren't as pressed on you renewing it as much, is because they didn't have funds to do it.
That's right.
15,000 would be better than nothing if it can cost us 35 to 40. Okay.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to open it up to questions from the rest of the committee?
I'm happy to.
Okay. If anybody got a question for him, just make sure you state your name first and then ask your question.
Wes, this is Rick Benton. I'm on the planning board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I got a question about the last slide. It sounds like it's saying that the town is going to need to update all of its ordinances to be in conformance with the new statutes. And is it saying that those need? Is it saying that those need to be updated and adopted by July the 1st of 2021?
The ordinances, yes, sir. And the town is, and I should have pointed this out, the town is actually already under contract with us to get that taken care of. So we are in the process of handling that. But that is a very good question. My hope is that it moves to July 1.
I guess my question is that typically you once you go through a comprehensive planning process, then you update your ordinances to make sure they comply with your comprehensive plan. So we probably need to do it again once the comprehensive plan is updated, and that may take, as you say, 1 or 2 up to 2 years maybe.
You're absolutely right, sir. That's typically the way that it would be handled. For the town in their 160D update, it would merely be updating the statutory references to make them compliant with 160D and not making any substantial policy changes. And then, yes, assuming that they did proceed with doing a comprehensive plan, after that was adopted, they would, I believe, figure out about, whether they wanted to proceed with a more, overhaul of the ordinances to meet the comprehensive plan needs.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
This is Dave Ward. How old is our existing plan?
Stephanie can jump in here, but I believe it was adopted in 2005, or is it 2005?
Yes, the land use plan we currently have was a 2005 adoption.
Thank you.
Sounds like there's probably no more questions. If there are, please interject, but it sounds like that's it. So again, I really appreciate everyone's time.
This is Dave Ward again. You said the Cameron Land Use Plan has guidelines to go by?
There are some, yes, sir, there are some rules that, some things that have to be addressed as part of the Cameron Land Use Plan. There are not as burdensome as they once were, but yes, there is a general set of rules that the plan must address.
And I assume Amy Kimes has a set of those.
Yes,
there will be. Mr. Ward, this is Amy. We'll be incorporating the CAMA land use plan and the comprehensive land use plan into one thing. Right now, the COG is working on getting our 160D updates done, and once that that'll be going on while we're working on the comprehensive plan. Once the comprehensive plan is put into place, we'll start the ordinance update. So we're looking at a 3 to 4 year venture here, working between the comprehensive plan and the ordinance update.
Thank you.
Doug, may I ask a question? This is Sally Eagle.
Go ahead, Sally.
Not to be
Sally,
redundant, but I said not to be redundant, but isn't this whole process to make sure that we are following the guidelines of what the state allows and doesn't allow?
I'll jump in there. I'm not sure if that question was for the mayor or myself, but
I think these questions are probably for you, Wes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would do that. It would ensure that you were following the guidelines, but it would include a lot more than that. It would really, that would be a small piece of it. If whoever does this, if they're doing a good job, it will really set the stage for how to manage the growth that's occurring in the town of Surf City in an effective manner. And really help the local elected officials figure out what's important to the property owners and folks that live in Surf City.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else got a question or comment? But I think Amy said, you said they were doing the comprehensive plan and the land use up plan would be done together, right? And I wouldn't get a big heartburn over the comprehensive plan because CAMA usually works pretty well with any changes that the coastal counties need to make as long as they're reasonable.
Hey, Wes, this is Dwight Torres, councilman.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. At the beginning of this, you said that the comprehensive use plan was commonly referred to as land use plan, and they're interchangeable. So is it one and the same, or are they in fact two distinct things?
They are one and the same.
Okay.
I would anticipate them being one and the same for you. Some places in the past they've had a separate CAMA land use plan, but now that those rules are a little more flexible, they should be one and the same.
Okay, I'm just new at this, so I didn't want to be confused. Thank you.
Anybody else got anything? I'd like to say I appreciate that Wes is working with us, because I tell you what, it would be a difficult job. Of course, it's going to be a time-consuming job on the planning board anyway, but it just makes it a lot easier when you've got somebody like Wes guiding you through it. And I'm sure Amy likes to have him on her side as well. So anyway, like I say, you've got a lot of work to go through, and it's going to take a while to do it. I've been through 2 or 3 of them before. I can't remember how many, but anyway, Been quite a few when I was on the planning board. So it's a lot of work.
Doug, this is Sally Eagles. I've been through one and it's mind numbing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. And actually, it has a lot to do with who's leading you, too.
True.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for those kind words. It's always a pleasure to work with you all in any form or fashion, and I thank your council and I thank your board and staff for taking the time today. Stephanie has my contact information. Should anyone else have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate it. And I want to appreciate the planning board being with us today. And I think y'all have done a fantastic job. Your work makes it a lot easier on the council, all the work that you do. So we do appreciate that too. Now, I guess, let's see, this is supposed to be a lunch meeting. Are we going to Stephanie's house for lunch? Is that what we're doing?
Right.
If you want leftovers.
Stephanie, we're gonna have to make this lunch up to us once we can all get back together again. So we got anything else to come before us?
Not at this time.
Okay. If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
I
make a motion. We
Okay.
adjourn.
Okay. And I think I got another one, so we got a second there. So we will now adjourn. I appreciate every one of you being here. And maybe our next meeting, maybe we'll have a video meeting and we can all see each other. I appreciate it and thank Jason for all his work. This has really worked good. And most of the time when I get on the phone, I get knocked off during my conversation, but I didn't today. All righty. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.